We be live! Hi everyone. I have been told not to say it this loud by people. People are like, Armin, don't yell at us right at the beginning of the show. So I'm like, we be live. We be live. Is that better? Like I don't know how to say it.
Well, it's
Hi
because you got
Susie.
that new mic, and when you yell, it blows it out. Hello.
What guys, was that too loud? Should I just like say we be live? How about that? Is that better?
It
Is
wasn't too
that like
loud for
more
me.
calm? It wasn't? Okay, give us some feedback. Hi, everyone. I see people in the live chat here today. Let me actually check if my audio is working. It wasn't? Yes, okay. Fantastic. It's working. Guys, can you please confirm in the live chat that you have liked the stream? Please mention that like. Oh, there are a lot of people in the live chat. Hi, guys. Shuva is here. Lori is here. John is here. Darko is here. Young Atheist is here. Mohsen is here. Scotland Scorpion is here. So many other. Nico is here. Benny is here. Kenny is here. All right, guys. Oh, D is here. Hi, everyone. Okay, okay. Guys. Yes, please. Thank you. See, people are confirming that they have liked the stream. We need you guys to like the stream so that more people end up watching the show. We have some interesting stories today that Susanna and Dee and the rest of the team have gathered from Netherlands, from Palestine, from Burkina Faso. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Hmm.
Bangladesh and United Kingdom. Right. So these are the stories that we're covering. The Netherlands stands up to Pakistani Islamist clerics' threats. Wow, that's good. Hamas leader calls for a return of suicide bombers. Wow. Jihadist bloodbath, 500 dead in a shocking massacre. That's our third story today. And then the fourth one is the warring rebirth of Bangladesh Islamist Party. This is what we were worried about, and now it seems like, based on the headline, it seems like it's happening. And then the last
We'll
one is the
discuss.
BBC scan. That's what I say. It seems like I'm not sure. So Susanna is going to clarify what's happening. So BBC scandal, the last one. Highly respected imam praised Hamas attack on Israel. So these are the stories that we're covering. I'm actually don't know much about any of these, so I'm very excited to see what these stories are about. All right, so Susie, are these stories tragic today? Are they ridiculous? Are they wholesome? Like, what kind of stories are we looking to? Like, what kind of feel? Let's say.
Mostly ridiculous, and one that is definitely tragic, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly ridiculous.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into it. And guys, remember that between the stories, we will be reading out super chats. So if you're giving us a super chat and you see that we're not paying attention to it right away, it's because we don't want to mess with the flow of the story, but we will read them between the news items or the stories. All right, wait, what did you start something? Do you want to read that?
It's just so funny. Kenny was saying that our thumbnail for this news is that's a somewhat stereotypical picture of the Netherlands. LOL. And first person is saying, Kenny, that's all I know of the Netherlands. If that's true, then
Wow.
it worked. Okay, we have to cater to the stereotypes in the world so people can easily identify what we're talking about.
Yes, and they say stereotypes become stereotypes for a reason. No, is that there's some truth behind stereotypes? Do you
I
believe
think
in
you're
that?
talking
Do you
about
believe?
stereotype accuracy.
Right. Is
So
that true?
stereotype accuracy is an observed phenomenon within psychology, which I believe is one of the most empirically supported within the field. However,
Oh,
there's some nuance to it.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we could discuss it another day. Should we get to the first news?
Yes, we should.
Okay, I have no idea what this first story is going to be about, but I'm very eager to hear about it. Okay, so first news.
First news, the Netherlands stands up to Pakistani Islamist clerics' threats. In a bold move highlighting the ongoing tensions between free speech and religious sensitivity, Dutch prosecutors have brought charges against two Pakistani religious leaders for allegedly inciting violence against Dutch politician Geert Wilders. The trial, held near Amsterdam's Schiphol, I don't know how to pronounce anything, airport on September 6th, accuses Mohammed Asif Jalali and Saad Hussein Rizvi for calling for Wilder's murder, with Jalali reportedly promising his followers would be quote unquote rewarded in the afterlife for killing the anti-Islam lawmaker. Wilders, who has lived under police protection for nearly 2 decades due to his controversial stance on Islam, addressed the court saying, quote, "This case has had a huge impact on me and my family. I'm asking this court to send a strong signal that calling for a fatwa in this country is unacceptable." The case underscores the complex interplay between religious extremism, political rhetoric, and national security, with the Netherlands taking a firm stance against threats to free speech, even as Pakistan's Tehreek-e-Labbaik party condemns the trial as Islamophobic. Naturally. Okay. So let me provide a little bit of background on this case. So for those who are not aware, Geert Wilders led his party to electoral success recently. They won a major election, come into power, and he has a very long history of controversial statements about Islam, freedom of speech, Muslim communities in the Netherlands, from different immigrant populations. He's a divisive figure, shall we say? And he kind of one of the things that really caused him to have a lot of notoriety was, I believe off the top of my head, it happened in 2018. I mean, he's been kind of one of these figures for almost 20 years, since the early 2000s. And he's been in the Dutch parliament for decades. But he came into notoriety, I think it was in 2018, when he wanted to have an open contest for everyone draw Muhammad Day, an open contest for drawing cartoons of the Prophet. And this caused mass threats from across the world towards the Netherlands, threats of terrorism. I believe there were riots in Pakistan when this happened, and then he ended up shutting down the contest, partially because of these riots. And low key, I'm like, why would you shut down? Because this is how it's written in English media. I'm like, why would you shut down the contest just because of some riots in Pakistan? If they want to go burn down their own country over you drawing cartoons, like, let them. But anyways, I'm sure it was more complicated than that. So, you know, that was one major thing. He's been living under police protection for a very, very long time. And there are these 2 Pakistani clerics who have openly incited violence against him. Now, let me be clear. They're being held in trial in absentia. So what does that mean? That means that they are not present. That means that both of these leaders are actually in Pakistan. Like, they're not in the Netherlands. They do not have any agreement. The Netherlands does not have an agreement with the nation of Pakistan regarding extradition or trying people, etc. So are they actually going to be held accountable? Like, let's be honest, no. I mean, they're like halfway on the other side of the planet. And one of the people who's accused of inciting violence against him, Saad Hussein Rizvi, is the son of none other than Kharam Hussein Rizvi, who is the founding leader of the TLP. The TLP, if you guys are not aware, is one of the most extreme Islamist groups in political parties in Pakistan that basically was born on the single issue of defending Pakistan's blasphemy law. For those who are not aware, under Pakistan's blasphemy law, you can be sentenced to death for blasphemy. Certain kinds of blasphemy, you get sentenced to death. Certain kinds of blasphemy, you only get life in prison. And no one has actually been executed under these laws, but they are still on the books and legitimized by the state. And his daddy, lest we forget that this man's daddy called for the entire nation of France to be nuked off the map because they allow Charlie Hebdo to continue to publish depictions of the Prophet. Because France allows this as a state, they allow it. Like, sometimes I wonder if these people even realize that it is not the state doing it. It's just that the state allows it. They somehow think that it is like France as a national body, like, doing it. I don't even know if they know the distinction sometimes. I don't think they do. So anyways, his daddy wanted to nuke France, have Pakistan use the Pakistan's nukes to blow France off of the map because they allow Charlie Hebdo to keep on carrying on. Okay, like, just as a reminder, everyone. So then that guy died during the COVID pandemic. We don't know why. His death was very mysterious. And then his son took over. So then his son is the one who's on trial now. And his son has been in jail by the Pakistani government because they're like so freaking afraid of this group. Remember when there were TLP supporters marching on the Capitol to free this guy from jail, and the government literally had to dig trenches in the highways to stop them from marching on the Capitol? Like, guys, I'm not making this stuff up. We can all look this up. So that's who that guy is. And they have explicitly called for the murder of Geert Wilders. And, you know, he is in court now asking for them to be punished. And will they actually be punished? No, like I said, they're not in the country. That being said, I do think there is an importance and utility in still going through this process, because it will show that the government is taking a strong stance towards the protection of its citizens and its members of government. You know, when Geert Wilders has said things that are against people on the basis of ethnicity, like, I think he went to court and was found guilty for essentially hate speech against Moroccans or something. He was held accountable for that. However, his criticism on the basis of religion should be, I mean, I actually don't think hate speech should exist, but that's a different matter. On the basis of religion is thoroughly protected. Regardless of if you think he's a far-right jingoistic bigot, there is still a sincere interest in protecting his free expression. And that is both in terms of the legalistic sense, in terms of the government shouldn't come after him for it, but also in the sense of, like, he should be allowed to live with liberty and freedom of movement, whether or not you like this man. I will defend his right to those things. And in the trial, what I thought was really poignant, he was talking about how he has been living under police protection since he was in his 40s. And now he's in his 60s. So he was basically saying that he's been serving, like, the consequences for the threats of these people for 20 years. And so, Armin, what do you think about this whole process? Do you think it's worthwhile if these people aren't even in the country? They're not going to be held accountable because the Pakistani government is no way going to participate in doing anything with the Dutch government to hold them to any sentence. The sentence hasn't come out yet. They're due to be sentenced in a few days, I believe. So do you think this is even a useful process to go through?
Wait, are these clerics at all? Like, I know they're not in Netherlands, but are they? Do they have any? Like, are they residents or citizens of Netherlands, or like do they have any ties to Netherlands, or is
And
this
what
just a
do you
symbolic?
mean ties to the Netherlands, like networks in there or something? Like I don't know,
No,
but
like are they citizens or
no,
residents?
no.
No. So the court has no jurisdiction over that to be able to. This is just a symbolic thing.
Yeah, they're being tried in absence. Like in France, when some of the Charlie Hebdo attackers were going to trial, they were tried in absentia. They were tried without they were tried despite their absence.
So what
Because
does this
normally
do
for trials you have
exactly?
to be
Like
present.
you basically charge spending court time and resources on charging people that you can't do anything about. Is what is it? What does it do? Like what is the utility of this?
Well, people would say that the utility of this is to actually show a strong position in opposition to these people. Like even if these people
Hmm.
are outside of the nation, it goes a long ways to demonstrating the stance and position of the government and how they do not tolerate this kind of activity, both internationally
Hmm.
and domestically.
I mean, it's nice to see that the same government that considers this guy to be racist enough to, I don't know, like they're like, okay, yeah, he's racist, but he's our racist, and you don't get to threaten him.
No,
Because
but like
this
that's
is
a good thing though.
I know it is. It is. I mean, I was looking. I mean, I like his anti-Islam stance, but I was looking whether or not he actually said things about, because people in the live chat mentioned that this guy is actually said some genuinely racist things, and I went to. They said that he said he called Moroccans scums, and I went to, because I mean, if he wants to speak against Islam, I mean, we love that and we support that. But if he called Moroccans scums, that is not anti-Islam. That is anti as
No, that is
an
racist,
entire, that is
obviously.
racist. And I went to check, and yeah, apparently he did say that. It says Greek Walders did refer to Moroccans as scum during a campaign speech. This occurred in 2017 when he launched his election campaign. Okay, election campaign in a place that I cannot pronounce. Wilder stated the Moroccans, okay, I can't say this. YouTube might, the scum in Holland. I want to clarify that not all Moroccans are scum, but there is a considerable amount of Moroccan scum in Holland that makes our streets unsafe, primarily young people. His comments were widely criticized and sparked controversy, particularly among Muslim groups in the Netherlands, who found his remarks reprehensible. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, just because we like his anti-Islamic stance, we're not going to defend this. Like I know some people do that, because if we endorse this guy 100%, we do better as a channel. You know, people don't, most audiences don't like it that you basically go a little bit in one direction. You have to either go commit 100% in one direction and
Hmm.
or 100% the other direction. If you come out and say, "Oh, we like Wilder's anti-Islamic stance," and you attract a lot of people that are his supporters, and then you look at, okay, he said something racist. We do not like that. That's racist. We are against that. Then you're gonna lose a whole bunch of people. People want to. People want absolute black and white positions. They're like, no, we like this guy. If we like this guy, you have to commit to supporting him 100%. I'm like, okay, well, we can't. Like the guy is saying, this is racist. This is a racist thing to say, so we do not endorse that. And this is the perfect recipe for your YouTube channel not to grow, by having by not by having actually not black by not having black and white positions. This is why, guys, if you appreciate us not supporting anti-Islamic positions, but also criticizing people for their racist narratives, if you appreciate that, please like this channel and support this channel, because this is why this channel doesn't grow. But go on, Susanna.
Well, I mean, it's not it's really simple. You can defend someone's rights without defending everything they have done or said. It's really not that complicated. It's really not that complicated. We defend the rights of Muslims without defending their religion. Like, many people can't seem to do that. They have to defend Islam to defend the rights of Muslims. Like, they can't seem to just be like, no, we respect your rights, not your ideas. I don't know. To me, it's really not that difficult. Like, there's tons of things that he's done. He used to be a proponent of essentially banning Islam from the Netherlands. I think he wanted to ban the Quran. I think he wanted to literally like ban Islam from the Netherlands. Like, we would never support that. Like, that's anti-liberal. We would never do that. My understanding is that he's actually changed his tune on that.
He did.
So, hashtag growth. You'll love to see it. Personally, I don't think that the idea of hate speech should be a thing. Like, we don't have hate speech laws here.
It shouldn't be law. You could categorize certain speech as hate speech. That's fine. But you shouldn't be banning it. I'm okay with the categorization of hate speech. I'm okay with saying, like, this speech is hate speech. Okay, fine, it's hate speech. Don't ban it. Don't make it the law.
Okay, I should clarify. I don't think that it should be a crime.
Yes.
So the idea of even being tried for something construed as racist is like something that I would oppose. That doesn't mean that I approve of amplifying racist sentiment. I don't know. It's not that hard. But one thing that Armin, this is just so funny. I'm sorry. I love laughing at the TLP because it's just like, the jokes write themselves. So Saad Hussein Rizvi, who's being held in absentia in this trial, had a statement about this. He has denounced the Dutch case, saying instead of trying him and the other cleric, the court should have sentenced Wilders. They're like, you want to put charges against me? No, you. And he said, TLP puts this question to the Dutch court, whether it was not Geert Wilders who should have been punished for insulting Islam's Prophet Muhammad. It is not freedom of expression. This is called Islamophobia, which is being done with a plan. Okay. Oh my God. Why in the world would a man who has had to have his freedom restricted because he has to be forced to live under police protection for 2 decades ever have a negative thing to say about the ideology that's causing him to live under police protection for 2 decades? They're like, this is all Islamophobia. It's being done with a plan. Like, it's this kind of stuff that drives me crazy. Yeah. It's like the lack of self-awareness. Like, why it's this, I don't know. It's like this obliviousness that's weaponized, or they're playing dumb. I don't know. Cause it's like, why would you ever think something negative about this religion when only the members of this religion have been threatening your life for 1/3 of your existence on this planet? Like, I don't know. That kind of thing just seems so ironic to me and stupid. Like, what a stupid thing to say. I don't know. That always gets me.
Yeah. But by the way, before I will get to the super chats, I just wanted to highlight this one by Jess Mandy. She's saying, you harvest what you sow, not sorry at all, and I'm a Dutch. So I think she's anti Geert Wilders, and she thinks that he deserved this. Again, even if what he's saying is wrong, this is not good. I'm glad that Netherlands, even if they're against his position and are against his views, it's a country of law and order, and it's a country that it comes and defends its citizens, even the people who they consider to have views that they don't like. this is what being a liberal country means, right? Like, even if you think he's a bigot, even if all of his positions are wrong. I mean, I like a lot of, honestly, yeah, when he called Moroccan scum, I don't like that at all. But I really do like his anti-Islam positions, right? But let's say all of his positions are wrong, all of them. Yeah, he's our freaking citizens. You don't get to come and threaten him. We will protect our citizens. If you have speech that is wrong, then what you deserve is to be challenged by speech that is correct, not to be threatened, not for your security to be threatened. I mean, that is, part of being liberal is to defend law and order and defend the safety of all your citizens, including the ones with views that you don't like. And some people were defending.
Let me put it in perspective here. Wait, sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead. Yeah, thank you for.
Okay, it's. Wait, where's that comment? Here's the thing. When we have freedom of speech and someone says something controversial or perhaps hateful and bigoted, I am not against there being social consequence. There is an issue of their freedom of speech is about interference and consequence from the government interference. I'm not above people saying, oh, if you start spouting off some Nazi shit, the people are going to look at you twice and look at you funny. I wouldn't be against that. Mm-hmm. That's natural. That's a natural consequence. If you say something in criticism of someone else's religion, like Armin and I do on a daily basis, it is a natural consequence that someone might see some of the statements that I have made and make judgments about me and have a certain opinion of me. I take accountability for that. I knew what that consequence was going to be. I take accountability for that. I'm not trying to skirt that consequence and skirt accountability. But here's the thing. That doesn't make it okay for people to threaten you and wish terrorism upon your entire nation because you have had criticisms or even blanket negative statements about your religion. There's a huge difference, because what I don't think people understand about how Islamists work is that there is not enough niceties in the world to spare you this fate. What I mean is that you can try to do everything you want to appease someone with this mindset. But if you have the criticism, I think you're going to be next on the chopping block, no matter how couched and nice and polite your criticism is. They don't tolerate it. And they enforce their intolerance with threats and violence. And that is unacceptable. So if you're saying, basically he's reaping what he sows, in some contexts, I'd be like, okay, if it was merely a consequence of social sanction, if it was just merely a consequence of social sanction, I would not have a disagreement with you. You have the freedom to say things. You don't have the freedom from consequence, right? But when people are threatening you with death, like, that is not tolerable. And then when you say you reap what you sow, you're essentially victim blaming. This is the exact same mentality that is used to put alleged blasphemers like Mubarak Bala in Nigeria behind bars. Because they say, you have criticisms of this group or this ideology, essentially the Muslims are going to get violent. Therefore, right. You poked the bear, it's your fault. Instead of saying, why don't we condemn the people that are doing the actual crime, which is the violence, incitement to violence, and threats.
I do want to get to her other comments. So basically what you're saying is social consequences are okay, legal and violent consequences are not okay. In fact, social consequences are okay because social consequences are also the freedom of speech of other people, right? So if you say something and somebody there's social consequences to what you said, if you're like, well, there shouldn't be social consequences to what I said because I have the freedom of speech to say what I want. Well, if you limit other people's responses, then you are limiting their freedom of expression. So social consequences should be allowed, right?
I'll put it
However, I do.
simply. I'll put it very simply. It drives me crazy when people are like, why do you talk about this? Why do people talk about this? They know that Muslims are violent. Like you're getting what you asked for. Instead of being like, why do we not find it intolerable that they're violent? And if they're violent, hold them accountable. That's what drives
Right,
me crazy.
right, yes. So let me actually get to her other points, which I wanted to highlight because they're all wrong. Just Mandy is saying in the UK, you have the freedom of speech, not the freedom of insult. Let me just be very
Lame.
clear. Hold on. When you don't if you don't have the freedom to insult, then you do not have the freedom of speech. That that is if you think that freedom of speech does not include freedom to insult, then I'm sorry, you have no clue what you're talking about. You do not understand freedom of speech. You do not understand what freedom of speech even means. So that is, and also just Mandy is saying, my point being, we got Muslim citizens. How, as a politician, you protect them when you insult their religion? I'm sorry. This you are just Mandy. You are insulting Muslims yourself. If you think protecting Muslims requires the government to protect their feelings, when we are talking about protecting citizens, including Muslim citizens, we're talking about protecting them from violence and from discrimination. If you think Muslim citizens require their fifis to be protected, then that you are insulting Muslims. You're generalizing them as children, as a bunch of crybabies that they require the government for people to step in and stop people from saying things that they don't want to hear. That you are actually insulting Muslims. I am treating Muslims like adults that should grow that should have thick skins that could tolerate people insulting their views. You are treating them like little crybabies. So there's that. And also, some people were saying that it was trying to defend Wilder's position, saying the Moroccan scum comment. And Kenny was saying, so if I said some white people are scum, that would be racist. Yeah, if you mention them being white, then I would suspect you're being racist to white people. If specifically,
Hashtag not
let's say
all.
that,
Sorry.
yeah, even if you say not all, the fact that you're identifying their ethnicities while calling them scum, I will say you are being racist, because he said, this is what he said, saying the Moroccan scum in Holland. I want to clarify that not all Moroccans are scum, but there is considerable amount of Moroccan scum in Holland. Okay, so let's that's what he said. Let me change that to white people, and I will call that racist. Let's say, let me change it. So the white scum in the United States, I want to clarify, not all white people are scum, but there's a considerable amount of white scum in the United States. Yeah, that would be racist against white people. The fact that you are identifying, highlighting the group that either a nationality or ethnicity. If you identify it like that, say, hey, there's a huge group of white scum in United States that are problematic. Again, not all of them, but the fact that you are identifying their ethnicity shows that you're basically suggesting an association with the ethnicity and them being scum. And you're saying there are exceptions, but you're saying those are basically saying it like that suggests that you're suggesting that the exceptions are rare. So that would be, I would consider that to be racist against white people if you talk like that, right? Other people were
I
trying to say the
identify
same
people
thing.
as scum on the basis of their antisocial behavior, their criminal behavior. not their entire group. You know, if you think that there's a group that might have a high ethnic prevalence that is doing something that's criminal and negative, just identify it off of the basis of criminal negative behavior.
Yeah, and also it's okay to suggest to look at statistics and see that there's certain behavior is more prevalent within a certain community. But then if you put that community next to the insult, it suggests that you're not identifying just the correlation, but the causation. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if I, for example, notice that certain, there people who have mustache are committing more crimes in society, right? And this is just happens to be correlation, but not causation. If I then go out and say this mustache uh, growing scum, then the insult suggests that there is a causation here, right? Not just a correlation. As if I say there's white scum in the United States, hashtag not all, then I'm not, even if that is true, that there's a correlation that certain activity is higher within white people in the United States, then if I just put the insult right next to that ethnicity, I am, to my audience, I'm suggesting that their whiteness, them being white, is causing them, not just the correlation, but it's actually the cause. And again, if I do that with Muslims and Islam, then the causation is justified. I could show you the causation between having Islamic belief and certain type of activity. I could not that it would justify you generally insulting an entire group of people, but at least I could show you the causation. But when it comes to being white or Moroccan or being black, even if there's a correlation, the causation is not there. There is an external factor that is causing the causation. Like, for example, in the United States, I could show you a correlation between being black and crime rates. That is fact. Crime is higher among black people in the United States. But is it because they're black? Is there something in their DNA that is causing that? No, there is another external factor that is causing higher crime rates among black population in the United States. So if I then put say black and then an insult, and then after that say that they're causing doing more crimes, I mean, technically I would be correct, right? Technically I would be correct if I clarify that I'm not talking about all black people. Imagine if I said that. If I said black, again, I'm not going to say this because YouTube might think I'm saying that.
I know, you're
and then
making
I
me
said
nervous.
scum. If I say black and then use an insult in United States are committing more crimes, again, I'm not talking, and then I say I'm not talking about all black people, you would be correct to assume that I'm racist against black people if I said that. You would be correct, even though that is true. Even though it's true that black people are doing more crimes in the United States compared to the rest of the population. That is true, but that statement suggests something beyond just pointing at statistical figures. It's doing something more. It's making you feel as an audience that blackness is something to be racist against. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you, at least, Susanna?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Right. Okay. I don't know who disagrees with me right now in the live chat, because a lot of people want to defend.
Kenny gave a super chat and is saying, I see your point. The ethnicity part is irrelevant, so bringing it up is racist. Thank you for clarifying that. Like, it's also just not politically tactful. It's not politically tactful. It's not for your own political expediency. It's a dumb thing to say, even if you look at it purely from that standpoint. So let's go to some of the comments we highlighted. Doron Regev gave a super sticker, $5 super sticker with no comment. Thank you, Doron.
Thank you.
Carl Schler is pissed. He's saying your liberalism is weak against Islam.
Oh yeah, I wanted to highlight this because I wanted to show Carl, you are so wrong. I don't know, are you being sarcastic here, or you do really mean this? You guys have no idea. I mean, if people believe that, what liberalism has overcome. Islamism is such a pathetically, Islam as a whole is such a pathetically weak enemy of liberalism. Is if you go look at just the past 100 years, the enemies of liberalism historically have been so much stronger. I know you guys looking at the news, you're looking at the UK, you're looking at Germany, and you're looking at France, and you think like Europe has fallen. And no, Europe has not. This is a setback. This is a challenge. I'm not going to deny that. But it's nothing compared to the previous enemies of liberalism. Liberalism had Nazi Germany, imperialist Japan, and communist the Soviet Union. May I remind you that it hasn't been 100 years since the heart of Europe was being controlled by totalitarian governments. This is like this was within my freaking lifetime, that all the way up to Germany, Europe was being controlled by communism. Between 1933 to 1953, most of the planet was being controlled by some totalitarian government, either imperialist Japan or communist Soviet Union or Nazi Germany or Italy or Mussolini in Italy. This and that enemy, we lived in a point within my lifetime, the possibility of the main powers in the world using nuclear weapons to kill hundreds of millions of people was on the table as an option that people were taking seriously. And liberalism has now overcome all of that, and almost every single nation has a structure that is trying to copy the model set by John Locke and Montesquieu and John Stuart Mill and others as the way to do politics and culture. The whole planet is being run by the standards in trade set by liberalism. And you think Islamism can overcome that? Islamism doesn't have a chance. Around the planet, people are consuming the culture, the music, the food, the politics, the movies, the clothes, the standards that is coming out of this liberal model. People are swimming in, they're like the fish that is swimming in waters that is not even capable of understanding that it exists, because it's just surrounded by it so much. Islamism, compared to the challenges that liberalism had before, Islamism is pathetically weak in comparison. Islam as a whole, and liberalism will overcome Islam as well. I just want, I don't know, maybe we should be talking more about this, because I think like liberalism, as successful as it is, it doesn't get enough people supporting it. Like there are not enough people mentioning or promoting it. As it's amazing that it's so successful even without people defending it as much as they should be, because it just works. It survives because it works. Anyways, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think it's like take it for granted, and not realized that a lot of the successes we have are due to this. I love this comment from Shuvo saying freedom of speech allows freedom to insult. Suck it up. And also a politician's job is not to protect religious sentiment. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, we got a lot more super chats, so let's go through these. GJ is saying hi from the Netherlands. Of course, I back Wilder's anti-Islam stance, but I hate his half-hearted distinction between hating. I hate his half-hearted distinction between hating Islam versus hating Muslims or Moroccans, in inciting hatred and discrimination equals illegal here. I can't tell if you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that he tries to make a distinction. I'm confused.
No, he's hating that is half-hearted. That's what he's saying. He says like the distinction should be very clear, that hating Islam and hating Muslims or Moroccans the distinction should be more shouldn't be as half-hearted. That's what he means, and I agree with GJ on that. Right? I don't agree that it should be illegal. I mean, I do agree that we should be calling it out. But even if it's wrong, it should. I do not agree with Netherlands making it illegal.
GJ is saying, by the way, during Wilder's political career, the Netherlands abolished laws against blasphemy and higher punishments for insulting royalty, foreign and domestic. Cool. Now, Netherlands law can only punish overtly harsh criticisms. I'm not exactly sure what the distinction means, but I'd be interested to learn more. Gasian American gave a super chat. Thank you, Gasian, saying school pew-pews. What he means is, can I say this on YouTube?
Yeah, sure.
Mass shootings at schools. And the presidential assassinations are committed by cisgender white men. Some, I assume, are good people.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. See, he's technically, Gasian American is technically correct. But if you say that, it seems like you're suggesting that it's wrong to be cisgendered white or man. This is an anti-cisgender white man position. Even though he's technically correct, I would consider this to be a bigoted, sexist thing to say, even if it's technically correct, because it's suggesting something beyond what it's saying.
Hans is just saying liberalism is the religion of the gays. If so, I love it. Can I have more? Can I have more, please?
I love how people who are anti-liberalism out themselves as homophobic. This is
Mugiwara is saying that liberalism beat Islam for the last 100 years nonstop.
Yeah.
It kind of caused a severe emotional damage within the Ummah when they lost their caliphate that they still haven't gotten over. Emotional damage. Mars, oh hi my friend, is saying, do you think part of the problem is because it's easy to conflate culture with race? I think when people hear the former, their mind always goes to the latter and a lot of nuance is thrown out. Simply put, yes. I think people are not used to making a differentiation. And more people need to be taught that it's actually very, very easy to make a differentiation. Which is why we talk about it all the time on this channel. GJ gave another super chat. Thank you. Saying, on a side note, have you heard about Louis Rossmann, his track record of spanking the YouTube gods on their own platform and often taunting YouTube to take him on legally? He spoke in U.S. Congress. No, I've never heard of this person, but that sounds interesting. Bose Einstein gave a super chat. Thank you. Saying Abrahamic religions from the Hammurabi Code are evil.
Yeah, so he's talking about the fact that the Old Testament, I mean, all three Abrahamic religions come from, Judaism, and the laws were copied from the Hammurabi. But the Hammurabi Code was actually progress for its time. So I don't know if you want to blame the Hammurabi Code for it. But again, it wasn't all copied from the Hammurabi Code. There were just some parts of it was copied from the Hammurabi Code.
One thing that's difficult is sometimes I don't know if people in the live chat are being deliberately obtuse or just stupid.
Hey.
When they say things to like rebut or question you that you already explicitly addressed, I'm like, I don't know what to do, man. Gasian is saying, are you saying liberalism defeated colonial Britain and colonial France?
I don't understand what you are saying. Liberal principle are against colonialism, if that's what you're meaning, and they eventually, because of liberal values, colonialism ended in Britain and in France. If that's what you mean, then yes. One very important part of liberal values is nationalism, and nationalism requires every group of people to be able to have their own nation and a state to reflect that nation, which is give them the right to self-determination. And colonialism basically goes against that principle. So basically colonialism, actual colonialism, not what woke people are referring to today as colonialism, liberalism managed to defeat that ideology, basically defending nationalism. Nationalism is basically anti-colonial, that the idea of nationalism. So, and liberalism supports nationalism.
I feel like people forget the extent to which these empires like willfully decided to decolonize in the 20th century. Like when Queen Elizabeth died, she got so much hate. And I'm like, do you guys not realize that she could be argued to be one of like the biggest decolonialists in the world? Like that was under her reign. Anyways, Carl.
Wait, hold on. No, wait a second. This is how people do not understand liberalism. Like the people are so foreign to because somebody is surprised saying liberalism supports nationalism. What the fuck? Yes, Sohaib. Liberalism invented nationalism. You guys understanding of what liberal principles are is so wrong. I think liberalism. People think liberalism is basically woke ideology. Yet the very concept of a nation state and defending a concept of nation state has been invented by liberal principles. If you are a nationalist, you're supporting liberalism. You guys, I think I should do a 101 on what liberalism even is, because people think that they don't understand it. People don't understand it.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. By the way, I sent you a song because I was so pissed on how people make fun of liberal principles and without even understanding what they actually represent. I made an AI song and you thought it was good with it, right? I was asking Susie whether or not I should, because I think there's not enough promotion of these ideas. I was thinking of releasing it on our channel because it's not copyrighted, because we made it ourselves. Should I post that to see, guys in the live chat? Tell me, should I? It ended up pretty. Susie, did it end up good? I think it was good. I don't know. I'm not very good at judging songs. Okay, guys, Susanna is confirming that it was good. Should I post that song? It's a 3-minute song. Let me know if you want me to post it on our channel on the Atheist. Oh, John is saying yes.
Show it during one of the like individual streams that you do.
I want to release it without explanation and see what people think about it, because I think like these ideas might be boring to a lot of people, but if we make some epic music and release it like that, then there might be some more willingness for people to engage with these ideas. I don't know. Yes, so let's see. I'm gonna release it and see how it goes.
Okay, so let's go to the next super chats. Carl is saying, your hikmah gave me new hope. Alhamdulillah, brother. Thank you for the super chat, Carl. And then Dan is commenting on Carl, saying, Carl Schler needs to grab a cold pint of camel piss and chill. Cheers, Ahi. Okay, man. Well, thank you for the super chat. To be aggressive towards someone else in the chat, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yes. Mary gave a super sticker. Thank you, Mary. GJ gave a super chat saying, Susanna, I wrote overly, not overtly, harsh criticism. Okay, my apologies. I'm a little dyslexic.
Susanna did that on purpose. No. Susanna did that on purpose so that you would use another super chat to correct that. That's what she did. So thank you.
Oh, and Dan is clarifying that he's poking fun at Carl because they're friends. Okay. I was like, shit, okay, man. Sergeant Broombeard gave a super chat saying peace after Cold War in World War II. Peace after Cold War and World War II spoiled us.
Yeah, people. I think I understand. I think people don't remember. I mean, we do deserve to be spoiled with peace, to be honest. Like, so I'm not against that, right? But I think what you're referring to is the fact that people don't understand how good we have it. The liberal principles that are now basically ruling the whole world have gotten us to a position where we're enjoying so much more peace and stability and a better way of life. And people do not understand it because they're used to it. They don't remember how bad things were just a couple of years ago, less than 50 years ago.
I had the misfortune of watching some Tim Pool content recently, and and he was going on some unhinged, stupid Ukraine rant and how he's anti-war and all this bullshit. And but it's only like anti-war when people are defending themselves, right? Funny how that works. And anyways, he was talking about how the peace that we've had, in the past several decades, we were very lucky. And I'm like, oh my God, you idiot. Like, this is not luck. This did not happen by mistake. This happened because of the success and efficacy of specific values, tactics, and strategies. It does not happen by luck. It does not happen by mistake. That pissed me off so much. I was like, oh my God, oh no. But Tim Pool is an enemy of this nation anyways. So, an enemy of the American people.
I mean, I wouldn't go as far as that, because would you say that? I mean, he thinks that because we don't know people's intentions. He might think, I mean, his ideas are insane and wrong, but
based on the unsealed indictment from the DOJ, he was deceived. I do believe that he was deceived.
So he wasn't on purpose trying to be I don't think he was trying to be anti-American. I think he was deceived.
If you're if you're so much of an idiot that your idiocy is that useful to the Russian state, and then you're not being like, I need some more reflection. I need some more accountability. I have no sympathy for this man. I think that he knew more than is in the indictment. So I'm going to continue to call him and Lauren Chen an enemy of the American people, because that's how I feel in my heart.
No, Lauren Chen is the enemy of the United States because she knew what she was doing. Tim
I hope
Pool,
that bitch gets kicked out of Canada and never allowed past our border again. You want to talk about the real bad immigrants? It's the Canadians, okay? These Canadians. I'm starting a beef right now with you, Armin. I hope you never set foot down south, okay? You better stay up north across the border, bro.
Hold on. Hey now. Don't get me started. Okay, what the hell? This is some
I'm kidding. I'm starting a beef with Canadians, and I'm starting here today. The real terrorists are up north, and we thought you were so polite and friendly, and that's how you let down our defenses, bro. But I see right through you right now. I know y'all's history with war crimes, man. You're on watch, man.
I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm not going to tolerate this level of hatred towards Canadian. You're going to make me stop saying sorry.
I'm going to stop saying sorry.
That's a threat. That's the most Canadian threat. We're going to stop saying sorry.
Or, hey there, bud. You're like, oh, shit.
We're going to send our geese after you.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? Those geese, I'll play nice real fast. Anyways, if people are new here, I'm terrorized by Canadian geese, and I'm convinced that the real terrorists are Canadian geese. I swear to God, man, I hate those motherfuckers. Anyways, Kenny gifted 50 Atheist Republic memberships to people watching right now. That is so generous. And he's saying that he gave all these gifts as a gift for his own birthday.
Wow.
Thank you, Kenny.
50.
That is so generous. And this
Guys,
is extremely generous because Kenny is already one of the best volunteers that we have here at Atheist Republic. I work with him on stuff all the time. Amazing guy. That is so generous, Kenny.
Guys,
thank you so much.
If you just became a member, please make sure that I'm basically doing now one member only stream a week. So go check out on the channel. You can see, if you go on the homepage of the channel, you can see the member only contents close to the top. So go because I think you're going to be a member now for a month. So make sure you go watch those member only streams, and there's going to be a lot more member only streams coming pretty soon. So take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Kenny.
Okay, John Bundock gave super chat saying European old-timey blasphemy laws are odd. Don't be too mean. I'm a little bit confused. I think you mean like the spirit of the law is like, don't be too mean. I don't know.
Yeah.
GJ
gave
a super chat saying in 1940 the UK Empire still held 24% of the world's population, but Roosevelt had Churchill over a barrel. He gave the Soviet Union so much lend-lease help that the USSR was a superpower in 1945 instead. I don't really have any commentary on this. Do you, Armin?
No. Thank you for the super chat.
But thank you for the super chat. Nike, is saying, and Armin, I don't want you to respond to this. Just saying, Armin, you said freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. Does that justify Muslims reacting violently to blasphemers? Nike, the short answer is no. And I would encourage you to rewatch this segment because we talk through this. We explain why the answer is no in this segment. So if you would like a full answer, we did give a full answer. Please watch the segment again. Thank you very much. Bull, but I would genuinely encourage you to just rewatch this because we actually tell you. And the answer is no. Bull gave a super chat saying time to add Canada to the Union.
Hey, now be careful. Last time you guys tried that, we burned the White House. What are you talking?
That did happen. That's
the only time that a foreign army managed to make it all the way to the White House and burn it down is when the Canadians came in and attacked the United States in retaliation. Yes,
that was a full blown. That was a fuck around and find out moment. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes,
I'm not gonna lie.
So, don't try it again.
You ain't lying.
And people try to make fun of Canadians of being like nice and polite and weak, and think like, oh yeah, the time they burned down the White House, that was a long time ago. Until they witnessed what Canadians are capable of in World War II, and they realized like,
and World War
One guys are. And World War One, yes. Actually, they were like, yeah, these guys are actually kind of crazy. Like, we should not fuck around with Canadians. They're actually not as chill as you think.
The French and British troops were like, these Canadians need to chill. Like, I don't know why they're so intense because technically this is our land territory. These guys got shipped in across the Atlantic, and sometimes they're going 10 times harder. Like, why are they so scary?
Yes. Basically, the Canadian were given the Geneva Convention, and they were told like these are not the things that you're not supposed to do during war. And the Canadians thought that this is a to-do list that they have to make sure that they get. It's a checklist that they have to do. That they have to make sure that they do all of them before the war is over. That's how the Canadians treated it.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Anyways. Okay.
We just got another super chat from GJ saying the UK and Netherlands tried to restore pre-World War II law and order in their pre-war colonies. They don't deserve any credit for decolonizing until about 20 years later. Suriname's freedom was Netherlands-led left government initiative. No, like, don't get me wrong. Some of the things that these colonial powers, imperialist powers, did to try to hold on to their colonies is horrific and barbaric. Like, Portugal is fucking terrifying. What Portugal did alone puts the fear of God in me. Like, I'm not trying to gloss over that history at all.
Yes. However, in their defense, I mean, we don't like what they did relative to what we have right now, which is nation states within the framework of liberal values. In relative to that, they were horrible. But relative to other empires that came before them, they were actually pretty good. The British Empire was a lot better to its colonies than, I don't know, the Japanese Empire, the Mongolian Empire, the Arab Empire, almost all the other empires. They were a lot better to their colonies, and they actually caused a lot more progress and development and technology and infrastructure and science. They brought all of that to these nations as well. Again, I'm not dismissing the bad things that they did, but I just want to say relatively to the empires before them, they were a lot better.
I don't know if it's worth doing comparative victimology right now. We can just say that it's bad. Like, it's okay to say that it's bad.
Yeah. But it's okay to say that they were good as well. Like, I'm just acknowledging the good, not just the bad. So if you want to say it's bad, I agree that the bad part, but I just don't want to throw away all the good that they did as well. Is that a masculine Voltaire in the bio of Ash?
Ash gave a super chat saying, man, working with some of the special forces here in Canada, being a nationalized citizen, the Canadian Army is very tough. Real Vikings. The world's strongest man is Canadian. And he's an absolute sweetheart.
No.
Anyways,
we should go to the next thing.
Okay. Oh my
Newton. God. It's a buff Newton, not Voltaire. Okay.
Freaking jacked Newton. Yeah. There's a good joke there somewhere. Okay.
Here's a good joke. He discovered gravity and he decided to defeat it. Look what I don't know. Is that good? No.
I like that. I like that.
All right. Nick, can I clap for the next news?
Yeah, we're gonna roast this guy.
Okay. Next news.
Hamas leader calls for return of suicide bombers. In a controversial recent speech, Hamas leader Khalid Mashal, called for a resurgence of martyrdom operations against Israel as the Gaza conflict entered its 10th month with over 40,000 Palestinian casualties. Speaking via video at a conference in Istanbul, Mashal urged Palestinians to escalate their resistance, stating, "Today in the West Bank, we have seen some successful early signs of martyrdom operations. We want to go back to the martyrdom operations. This necessitates an all-out conflict." He also appealed to the students worldwide to support the Palestinian cause. The speech drew sharp criticisms from other Arab journalists and people on social media who accused Mashal of promoting dangerous ideas from the safety of Qatar while endangering Palestinian lives. These statements came amid the ongoing hostilities following October 7th attack on Israel, which resulted in 1,200 dead Israeli deaths and numerous hostages. So wait, let me pull this up. Can I do this or does Armin have to do it? Okay, here we go. Oh. So I guess in case people are listening, I'll read out what the subtitles are. It is not enough for us to be proud of the resistance. watch videos on TV, and be full of praise for their heroism and sacrifice.
ونقول ما شاء الله ما هذه العظمة أي عطاء أي بطولة الفخر مطلوب.
Pride and appreciation are required.
الاعتزاز مطلوب وأن ندعمهم ماليا مطلوب.
And supporting them financially is also required.
مطلوب لكن ذلك لا يكفي.
But these are not enough.
اليوم قبل الغد.
Today, not even tomorrow, we should make the decision
أن نأخذ قرار المشاركة الفعلية
to become practically engaged in the Al-Aqsa flood. Now, for those who aren't familiar or forgot, Al-Aqsa flood is the name of the operation of the October 7th attack. So he's saying today, not tomorrow, we should all become engaged in the Al-Aqsa flood.
في الطوفان من الموقع الجهادي.
In the practical jihadi and military sense. Okay, in case things were not clear enough, let's get all the way clear right here.
العسكري العملي. اليوم مطلوب.
Today in the West Bank, within the 1948 borders, and in the diaspora.
في الضفة وفي 48 وفي الشتات. مطلوب.
The escalation of this conflict is required.
التصعيد هذا الصراع. واليوم في الضفة الغربية.
Today in the West Bank.
وقد رأينا بداية.
We have seen some successful early signs of martyrdom operations.
موفقة. بعض البواكير في العمليات الاستشهادية. نريد العودة إلى العمليات.
We want to go back to the martyrdom operations.
الاستشهادية. هذه.
This necessitates an all-out conflict.
حالة لا يصلح لها إلا الصراع المفتوح. هم يقاتلوننا.
They are fighting us in an all-out conflict.
بصراع مفتوح ونحن نواجههم.
And we should face them with an all-out conflict.
بصراع مفتوح. نطلق العنان لكل أشكال
We should unleash all forms or resistance. I think it was supposed to be all forms of resistance.
مقاومة وفي مقدمتها العمليات الاستشهادية. ننخرط فيها.
Oh wait, I missed one. First and foremost, the martyrdom operations.
ننخرط فيها. مواجهة مفتوحة. نجدد.
We should engage in these operations. We should have an all-out confrontation.
نجدد هذا الروح في الضفة.
We should reignite the spirit in the West Bank and in the 1948 borders.
غربية وأهلنا في 48 وإلا سينطبق.
Otherwise, Israel will fight us piece by piece.
علينا أن إسرائيل تتفرد بنا قطعة قطعة. الخيار المنطقي.
The solution that is acceptable to one's logic and conscience.
الذي يقبله العقل والضمير والمسؤولية التاريخية.
And is in keeping with our historical responsibility and the Sharia.
والشرع أن نفتح عليهم كل.
Is to unleash all the fighting fronts against them.
الجبهات. بعد أيام.
In a few days, the academic year will start again at universities worldwide.
يعود الموسم الدراسي إلى حيويته في جامعات العالم. يا قادة الطلاب.
I call upon the student leaders in our Arab and Islamic countries.
في بلادنا العربية والإسلامية وفي ساحات الغرب.
As well as in the East and in the West.
والشرق نريد تجديد الحراك.
To renew the student movement in the broadest scope.
الطلاب على أوسع نطاق حتى يتوقف هذا العدوان.
In order to stop this criminal aggression.
المجرم ولكم الفخر يا.
You should be proud of yourselves.
شباب الأمة وأحرار العالم.
Oh, youths of our nation and free people of the world. Okay, so that was the end.
It shows how much when the university protests that happened, that was a major. They considered it a major win. Like if you go look into their propaganda, when the protesters, especially in Europe and America, and students were coming out, they were saying that they were showing that as a major sign of victory for their cause, because their understanding is that they would die. They're willing to die to make Israel look bad. That's the game that they're playing. They know that they don't have enough military power to pressure Israel, so they want the Israeli people to pressure their own government, and they want the international community to pressure Israel, and they do that by making as many Palestinian babies as possible for them to die. Specifically, they want to attack Israel and force Israel to come and defend itself. And when Israel come defend itself, to basically put the children in front of Israel so that they die, and then make the world turn against Israel that way. That is the plan. So when I call them a death cult, when he's asking for martyrdom, that's the plan. He wants Palestinians to die so that the world will feel sorry for them, so that the world turns on Israel. And basically, you
And
can
we
see all that plan in one speech. Yeah.
and we don't have to like articulate that based on implication of what they're saying.
Mm.
As a consequence of what they're saying. They say that. Like,
Yes.
here's the difference. Sometimes with some movements, you have to look at what they're saying and the implications of it and the consequences and some forth, and then you can really get a clear vision of what is actually going on. No, here they just say it. This is why
Yes.
I encourage people to just go watch and listen to what people say in their own language, because oftentimes it is very different than what people say to English media. You get some real gems when
I mean, we
people
saw
are
Yahya
speaking to
Sinwar.
themselves versus speaking to the outside world.
I mean, we see Yahya Sinwar also
Mhm.
coming out and directly saying that our civilians dying is good for us. Like, and this is a strategy. This is why people were wondering why, when you built all these tunnels, you never built a single bomb shelter for Palestinians, because the Palestinian people are supposed to die. Like, this is when they say that we celebrate martyrdom, that means that we celebrate our people dying. They want their people to die, that this is part of a plan. And basically, if you listen to what he said here, he starts by saying that we need more martyrs. That basically means that we need more of us, our Palestinian people, to die. And then people, the students in other countries, uh, they saw that the protests, for example, in the United States and Europe, was so much pressure on the politicians in these countries. One reason, for example, in the United States, you see Kamala Harris trying to figure out a balance between the progressives and the liberal Democrats, or the Jewish Democrats, is making it very difficult for her, is because of the student protest. The student protest put pressure on the Democratic Party in the United States. So this is, Hamas is looking like we don't have like advanced weapons. We don't have the military might to be able to attack Israel, but we have able to, by dying, by getting our own children killed, we have managed to start protests in Europe and United States in a way that the politicians of the most powerful countries in the world have to change some of their decisions based on what we have done. So they think, okay, that is the most level of influence that we could have. Like, if we don't have, I don't know, nuclear weapons, we do have Palestinian blood. We have Palestinian bloods, and this is why they encourage their women in Gaza to have a lot more children. And again, we have everything that we show you guys on this channel. They all go together. This is why we have so many videos of Palestinians' mothers saying that I bring more children so that they become martyrs, so that the world turns on Israel. Like, this is not us making this stuff up. This is what they say. This is what they say themselves. And this is why celebrating martyrdom is so dangerous, because this is what brings misery to the Palestinian people themselves. This is why when Muhammad Hijab comes in his videos and says, we love death more than you love life, that completely goes hand in hand with the ideology that makes the strategy possible, right? And they come to the world when they say, like, oh my God, look at us. We're so, they're killing us. But then internally, they act like they're very lucky that they're dying. So to the world, they say that we are miserable, this is injustice, and you should be anti-Israeli because they're killing us. But then if you look at their own internal content, when they're talking to themselves, they act like they're the luckiest people in the whole world that they're dying, because there's no better thing, there's no better place to, there's no better honor than being a martyr, right? So you can see, but with social media, I'm hoping that more people can see the difference. And again, this is also such a betrayal of the Palestinian people, because it's hard. We're human. We want to, I mean, as much as we want to be able to sympathize with people, the Palestinian people are making it very difficult, because it's hard. It's difficult. I mean, we want to be rational, but we're also emotional animals. If people don't value life themselves, it's hard. They make it very difficult for you to value their lives when they're showing that they don't value their own lives. When you are celebrating martyrdom, when you're celebrating your own children dying, when you are celebrating, when you see that this is the goal, death is the best thing that could happen to you, you make it as a human. I need to see some shared values, or I need to be, if I want to sympathize with you, I need to be able to use some similarities between you and me, to use that as an anchor to build my sympathy for you on. How could I care about your life if you don't care about your life? And if more people see how much death is being celebrated in Gaza, then you're going to make it eventually very difficult for the world to sympathize with you. When you look at Israelis, it's easy to sympathize with them, because you see some similarities. You see them enjoying life. You see them wanting to live. You see them, having lifestyles that you could relate to. If you see Gazans and you cannot even relate to that, you could ask the world to sympathize with that, but you're becoming so distant in what you want, in your values, in your way of life. You're becoming so different from the rest of humanity that others will look at it and they might not even recognize what the hell they're looking at, and it will become more and more difficult to sympathize with that. I don't know. Should I even be saying that? Because that might have dangerous implications when I'm saying that. I'm warning you about what we are getting to, right? I want to sympathize, but you're doing your best to make it difficult. Does that make sense? Should I even be saying that? I don't know.
I understand what you're getting at. That you're saying that when you observe a culture that celebrates death and martyrdom and killing to this degree, you find it extremely difficult to relate to, and as a basic function of your human psychology, you are not, this is a fact that you can observe among infants before they can even speak. They are less likely to want to protect what they are not familiar with. And so you're just acknowledging that fact, both as something that a lot of people don't want to admit, but it's also something that we have to be conscious of. Like, human beings have an inherent propensity for judgment and bias, and in-group bias specifically. That doesn't mean that we have license to just go wild with it. That means that we should be conscious of it, and conscious of it in our lives, and try to identify it when we might be falling into it. You can't help identify a potential issue or bias if you're not even aware that it exists, that you have that propensity, right?
Yes.
And it's really tragic, because I remember watching a lot of content from this group called the Center for Peace Communications, and they had a series called Whispered in Gaza. And this is a series that they did many years ago, way before October 7th. And it was supposed to be giving a platform to Gazans to talk about what their dissent from Hamas and their criticism of Hamas and what it and the other jihadi groups and what it has meant to their life and the tragedy that has wrought upon their life. Because one of Hamas's tactics is to seemingly present universal consensus. And in one of the videos that I was watching from Whispered in Gaza, it was this woman talking about how she had these dreams and she wanted to be a dancer and she wanted to be a musician, and how Hamas has not allowed her to do that and how they've destroyed musical instruments. And in this video, she talks about the effect that this has had on the culture. As a Gazan currently living there at the time that this was made, saying when we worship death, we treat each other like we are already dead. We treat each other like we are already dead, so there's not much left of life that is worth living. If you live as if you are already dead, she basically says something along the lines of like, we live like zombies. And I thought that was like a really astute observation, and I can't imagine what it would be like to live with that feeling, to have that be the feeling that I articulate about my own society. I can't imagine what that would be like. But one thing I did want to point out before you go into, actually, maybe I should bring this after the videos, but there were people roasting this guy, calling for more martyrdom operations on Twitter. Should I do that after the video?
Yeah. I mean, if he's asking for martyrdom, I actually hope that he gets that wish at some point. Israel,
and that's what people on Arab Twitter were saying to him.
Yes. I mean, Israel hasn't been cooking some cutlet recently, and we have been addicted to Israeli cutlet, and I don't know what's happening right now. Yeah.
I want to make a cutlet calendar. I swear to God, we should make a cutlet calendar.
Yes, yeah. Anyways, let's listen to what she's saying. So this was Dee managed to also include this one. This is the head of Hamas's woman movement on TV, claims that after introducing Gazan children to jihad from infancy, all Palestinian girls want to sacrifice themselves in terror attacks against the Jews. She praises minor girls for this desire to sacrifice themselves. So listen to this. So she said, let me begin by saying that the word martyrdom seeker means that when a girl sets out, she has only one thing on her mind. To meet her Lord by means of her blood and her body parts. If anyone among the women of Hamas had the opportunity to be martyrdom seeker, not a single one of them would back down. Many women wish to be in the place of martyrdom seekers or together with them. Most kindergartens in Gaza belong to our sisters in Hamas. God, save these children. If you want to save Gaza, save these children from this ideology. Holy crap, man. This is why Israel is the best thing for the Palestinian people. The only hope you have for people in Gaza is for Israel to come liberate their children from this ideology, to basically come and take over the education system. Children are raised from a young age on this culture. Allah is our goal, jihad for the sake of Allah. From infancy, children are nurtured to love jihad, to want to meet Allah. When she says want to meet Allah, means to die. Meet Allah means basically become a martyr. حب الجهاد وحب لقاء الله وحب مقارعة and to love fighting the enemy
كل هذا منذ الطفولة لا نتعجب.
It is no surprise that women set out to blow themselves up, leaving their children behind.
من أن تخرج المرأة وهي تاركة لأطفالها لأنه هي تعلم.
Because they know that even if they would raise their children,
بأن أطفالها إن ربتهم أصلا هي ستربيهم
they would raise them for these moments,
من أجل هذه اللحظات. ستربيهم
to be martyrdom seekers for the sake of Allah.
استشهاديين في سبيل.
By the way, guys, anybody who wants to come and say, well, Armin, this is not Islam, most Muslims do not want these things or do these things, this is completely in accordance with the Quran. Everything is saying is completely what you're supposed to want. If you read the Quran, you could say that this is completely based on Islamic teaching.
وإيش طبيعي.
And she says, I am talking to you as a mother.
يعني أنا أتحدث لكم كأم. يعني الأم
If a woman is given a choice to either go first or have her son go first,
سبحان الله يعني إن خيرت بين أن تتقدم أو يتقدم ابنها هي بالطبع.
of course she would offer both herself and her son. I was actually, I didn't know what she's going to say. I was like, oh, is she going to say, okay, but if she had to choose, okay, so I was like, is she going to say that women don't want their sons to die? Because that would not be okay. You should want your sons to die as well. But she managed to say, like, yeah, of course she wants both of it. She wants herself to die and her son to die as well. Okay, but if she had to choose,
هي ستقدم الاثنين ولكن لو خيرت بين نفسها وبين ابنها ستختار.
She would choose to be martyrdom seeker herself. Well, why would you want that? As a mother, you should want the best for your son. So you're basically choosing yourself to go to the best part of heaven instead of your son to go to the best part of heaven.
أن تكون هي الاستشهادية.
Anyways, that was absolute insanity. Only with religion, man. Only with religion. But yeah, go on. You wanted to show.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about how people are roasting this guy, calling for more suicide operations on Arabic speaking Twitter. Wait, there were some real bangers. People obviously pointing out, like, how dare you say this when you're sitting in a cushy luxury hotel in Qatar? Like, this is funny. This one was funny, from a Lebanese journalist, saying it appears that Khalid Mashal, who is calling for the resumption of suicide operations, feels shame and jealousy since Yahya Sinwar beat him to the sacrificing the Palestinian people and their cause. If you want suicide operations, start with yourself. You should be a role model and lead by example, not uttering slogans in your fancy hotel. Then one of them that really got me was people saying, like, this is horrible, you know, this is pure extremism. Like, we as Arabic people, we should be having like an official Arab voice calling this movement a criminal organization. Then he also, the same person also said, Hamas has declared mobilization in the West Bank. Our message to this is the weapons in the West Bank will not liberate Jerusalem. They will only turn the West Bank into a second Gaza. And then there was another person, a Saudi journalist, saying Hamas will destroy the Palestinian cause. With its stupidity and its operations as an agent of Iran, it has given the Zionists an excuse to ethnically cleanse and destroy Gaza. It is now giving them the same excuse in the West Bank. By calling for the suicide operation, Khalid Mashal will give the Zionists an excuse to get rid of the Arabs of 1948. Oh, Khalid Mashal, if you believe in suicide operations, start with your sons so that they can reach paradise before you do. And then he also say, stop Hamas and its stupid acts. Otherwise, you will be saying, may Allah have mercy on the Palestinian cause, because it will have been destroyed. I thought that was very interesting.
Okay, I want to criticize it then, because it seemed like at the beginning there was an attempt to separate Hamas from the Palestinian cause. Okay, that was the attempt. That's my understanding, right? There is no Palestinian cause separate from Hamas. The Palestinian cause is Hamas. They call it the Palestinian cause, and the cause is to destroy the Palestinians for the sake of the destruction of Israel. There is no movement right now of the Palestinian cause that is set to liberate and bring peace and stability and prosperity to the Palestinian people. The only entity that is even getting close to trying to do that is Israel's government. Outside of Israel's government, there's nothing. Every other cause that is labeled as the Palestinian cause is basically Hamas's cause. If you want to show me what exists other than that.
Well, historically, that hasn't always been true. You're just saying now.
Yeah, it was a PLO before. Yeah, I'm talking about now. But even back then, it was a pan-Arab. It's an Islamist movement right now. Before, it was a pan-Arabist terrorist movement. Now it was a pan-Arabist terrorist movement, and it's now an Islamist terrorist movement. But not any of them was both motivated by anti-Jewish hatred. Both decided to not prioritize what would be best for the Palestinian people. Both prioritize just basically being anti-Jewish. Just basically not even if it made sense for them to accept deals with the Jews to have their own land and the Jews to have their land, basically happening in Israel and Palestine. Both decided that no to Israel, no to a land for the Jews, even if it comes at a cost to the Arabs in that region. That's what they both decided. One of them from a more secular perspective, a pan-Arabist ethnic movement, and the second one from more of a religious Islamic perspective.
So let's go to all the super chats we got this segment.
Yeah.
So GJ sent a super chat, I think in regards to the last segment, saying also in the Netherlands news a day ago, protests contra statue of 17th century Dutch Gold Age hero Jan Peterson Cohen. Yes, a white war hero named Koen. Haha, must be taken down. He committed genocide. Okay, so you are saying that there's protesting against a statue. Okay. Sergeant gave a super chat saying Hamas lost militarily but won the propaganda war. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, a little bit, okay? A little bit, but we should be careful not to exaggerate that, okay? For example, like if you look at America, it's easy to look at the protests in the universities and think now Americans have turned against Israel. So there is a setback. There has been a setback. The support for Israel has dropped, but the majority of Americans still support Israel. So it's true that they have had some wins, but let's not make it seem like they have completely destroyed the pro-Israeli position. So there has been some blows.
That's not at all what the statistics show. It's not at all.
Yeah, but it is a win for them, to be honest. Like, it is a win. It's not as big of a win as people think, but it has been a win.
And I wouldn't even give the credit to Hamas. I would give the credit to the Islamic Republic, frankly.
Well, I mean, the Islamic Republic through Hamas. I mean, to be honest, we don't exactly know how much the October 7th attack. We know, okay, so the October 7th attack was supported by the Islamic Republic when it comes to financial support and when it comes to military support. But we don't exactly know how much of it was planned by the Islamic Republic. It is possible that it was not directly planned by the Islamic Republic. However, the Islamic Republic is trying to take credit for it anyways in some circles and try to separate itself from it in some other circles, depending on.
Yeah, I'm like, they're talking about taking credit for it.
Yeah, but that taking credit for it could potentially be because they didn't want to take revenge, because they were too scared of taking revenge. So they were trying to act as if they already took their revenge on October 7th. So we don't know the actual motivations between claiming that Zahedi was involved in the planning of October 7th. We don't know that exactly. It's both of them are possible.
A gave a super chat Thank you, Ace. And the protests are a victory for them because they are part of the Muslim Brotherhood. They have American kids now advocating to dismantle the U.S. at Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine this week. Okay, this is another thing where it has gotten a lot of media attention because it is happening at prominent elite universities, and it's very shocking, and people are doing a lot of insane, shocking, criminal behavior, violent behavior, illegal behavior, against Title IX, for example. Or is it Title X? Anyways, that being said, again, when you look at the actual statistics of this, there have been studies about where these encampments and protests have occurred across the nation, what extent they were just protests, and to what extent they blossomed into encampments, and then to what extent it had to be followed by arrests and blah, blah, blah. People have already run the numbers on what happened in the previous school year. This is largely a symptom of just what is happening in our elite universities. This is a symptom of a sickness of the elite. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Well, I do know a bit of what's going on, but it is a phenomenon that is largely relegated to our most elite institutions because they have an issue with like mental sickness, self-hatred. It's a whole thing. We can unpack that later, but I want to just put that into perspective for people. It is useful. It is extremely useful for our ideological enemies, for the adversaries of our nation. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but we do need to also put it into perspective that this is a small minority of what is occurring in American universities.
But a loud minority that is influential, especially given that, for example, the elections in the United States is so close, right? Then the 1% could have, even if you're 1%, if you have 1% influence, that could be basically the difference between who becomes president. So you are a minority, but if it right now it's neck and neck between, for example, Kamala Harris and Trump. So that, yeah, the crazy progressives, anti-Israeli, pro-Hamas people, if they could move the needle by 1%, they might be able to make take the presidency away from the Democrats if the Democrats don't come and endorse their positions. So you can see how even with being a minority, you could still be, the king or queen makers, right? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gnome just became a new member. Oh my god, that's amazing. Thank you, Gnome. Welcome to Satan's Minions, which is a great reminder to everyone that a great way to support the show, because Atheist Republic is a team that is much larger than just me and Armin. And we do many things besides this channel. We have one of the most influential atheist channels in the Persian language. Don't you forget it. You can support all that work. One of the most amazing ways to do this is by becoming a member on YouTube. So link in the description below, hit the join button and become a member. In fact, I would just like to celebrate. I was running the analytics because, Armin talks about doing defense and offense. And when we're doing offense, we're going to the heart of the Islamic Republic. Okay, bro? And that's what we have our Persian channel for. We had over 4 million views on our Persian channel last year. Talk about impact. That's the kind of impact you guys are supporting when you're supporting Atheist Republic.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
So Bose gave another super chat saying pro-Hamas chaos comes from Russia, IRGC, and their funding. Yes. Yeah. And we know that they are funding groups that are adversaries to our nation within our nation. And we know that they are using influence campaigns and disinformation campaigns to amplify and organize the chaos on some of these college protests. We have evidence. So John, and also just national security advisors just like openly talking about this now. And we're like, oh, so we just openly admit that now? Okay, cool. John gave a super chat. Thank you, John, saying loser Mashal left his followers behind in Syria as they died from Assad and Hezbollah. Then they kissed the ring of Khamenei. Even by Islamist standards, he sucks. I'm a fan of just calling these people losers. Like, let's just openly mock these people. you know, it instead of giving them all this power by being fearful, you know, fear is actually giving over a lot of power to someone. We should just be mocking them as losers. Like the
Wasn't
Taliban.
he the one that wasn't he the guy that was a little bit opposed to getting closer to Islamic Republic? And Yahya Sinwar was the one that wanted to get closer. I thought there was an internal disagreement within Hamas over this. I'm gonna look this up. Khalid Mashal, a prominent leader, had so he had a complex relationship with the Islamic Republic. It's true. Yeah, this is the guy from the Hamas leaders. Most of Hamas leaders want to get closer to the Islamic Republic. This guy is the one that is actually a little bit skeptical regarding the relationship between Hamas and the Islamic Republic. He had an up and down. You know, he had a history of, even right now after Ismail Haniyeh died. I think they were considering him making the next leader, and then Yahya Sinwar came out and said, like, we need somebody that is actually more pro-Islamic Republic for this position, if I remember this correctly.
You know, I let's bring back the terminology we used to use in American politics, where we just call someone a pancake, like a flip-flopper. Let's bring that back.
Yeah.
Flying Robot Duck gave a super chat saying, how can the Palestinian culture change? Well, that's going to take the project of generations. A lot of de-radicalization, not allowing Hamas to be in charge of UNRWA schools, for example. That'd be a good step. Do you have any opinions on this, Armin?
How can the Palestinian culture change? Well, I'll tell you how. Okay, we need people to beg Israel to not leave Gaza, to keep a hold on the Philadelphia corridor, to make sure that it's not the Philadelphia corridor is not under the control of Egypt, for Israel to stop using these international humanitarian organizations to come out and distribute food and water and medicine, for Israel itself to take full charge of that, to get all of the people from Gaza to come to southern Gaza and basically block that entire area for only Hamas to leave here, and for them to stop, not do war in the north of Gaza, but basically cut all electricity, water, and food from them. So eventually they just come out of the ground themselves, because they need to eat and drink at some point. And they basically cleanse all of North Gaza and basically keep coming down and doing that all the way down, and basically cleanse all of Gaza from Hamas's military operations that way. And also to make sure that all the corridors, including the Philadelphia corridor, is closed off, so that no weaponry or funds or anything else gets into Gaza unless Israel can see and manage it. Once you have completely demilitarized Hamas, then you have to work with Gulf Arab countries to come up with an international coalition for them to, with the direct supervision of Israel, to rebuild Gaza, and for them to, but under the direct control of Israel, especially the education system has to be completely dictated by what Israel decides that is in the education system. Any form of brainwashing of children, the media and the education system has to be completely under the control of Israel. Has to be approved. It could be under the control of Saudi Arabia, but it has to be approved by Israel, right? What goes into the media and what goes into the education system of Gaza. And every parent that has been shown to be radicalizing their children at home should be separated from their children if there's any proof that they are being radicalized at home. And this has to be done over, and also the Gaza has to be rebuilt. We need to bring back work visas for these people in Gaza, so try to improve economic prosperity in Gaza, so that the generations to come actually have something to look forward to, a life that they could look forward to. We have to, if you want people to stop focusing on the afterlife, you have to actually give them a life that they could look forward to. And this, if you manage to do this, it will take 2 or 3 generations after that where you will have a population that is de-radicalized. And also, I do think that to be able to do that, Israel has to start doing what it's doing in the West Bank, in Gaza. Basically, Israel has to start moving in settlements into Gaza. So with the excuse of monitoring and providing protections for those settlements, it could actually control militarily, keep an eye over all of Gaza. And basically these settlements, the people from Gaza that eventually are de-radicalized, like the next, not this generation, I don't think it could do anything about it, but the generations to come of Gazans, the ones who are de-radicalized, the children, or at least the grandchildren of the people who are living today, they could slowly be given, the ones that have been proven to be contributing members of society, for them to move from the part of Gaza that doesn't have Israeli settlement to the parts of Gaza that has Israeli settlements. They could be first provide them with residentship, and after a period of time, the de-radicalized Gazans that are contributing members of society could be given Israeli citizenship. And this is a very long, multi-generational plan that has to be dealt with like that. This is what I think. This is how it happens.
A gave another super chat saying, heartbreaking how some people think that it's just fine to sacrifice the Palestinians for the Ummah. Islamists are the #1 threat to Palestinians. Oh my God, man, I swear to God, there's sometimes I'm like, I don't know if there can be anything more dehumanizing to this group of people than how they are treated within the Islamic context. It is so sad. It is so sad. We've covered stories on the channel of imams in the US like breaking down crying basically because of how they wish that they were in Gaza dying for the sake of Allah. Like, if you really think that this is the highest thing that an entire group of people can achieve, like, so sad. GJ gave a super chat saying, Ion Hersey Ali always says Orthodox Islam invests everything in the afterlife and horrifyingly little in this life. Women are just baby makers. Yeah, and this is why I have a suspicion towards any ideology that puts such a huge emphasis on the afterlife. It's really, really dangerous. It's really, really dangerous. It really teaches you to completely shift your priorities away from what you actually have control over, which is what you do in this life and over your own mind. GJ gave another super chat saying, is Reliance of the Traveler not one of the best, most easy to read and official books to look up and understand Islamic doctrines without taqiyya? Have you read this book, Armin? I haven't.
Yeah, okay. So it's the most popular source of understanding of Islamic teachings among Muslims. However, to be able to, if you're trying to understand which ones are approved, you have to look at whether or not they're considered sahih or not, right? So if you are trying to be more, I don't know, academic about it, technically the books that are the main source of authentic Islamic hadith is Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. But you are right, the Reliance of the Traveler is the collection of hadith that has made it easy, accessible to Muslims to be able to read about Sharia and what Sharia teaches, and that's why this book is very popular among Muslims. And it's a good way for other people to also understand what Islamic teachings are about, because the Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim do not make it easy for you to just go through it, but this book makes it easy for you to go through it. Yes.
Okay, another super chat. John is saying, right on, Susie. What's up with some of the college youth these days? The behavior resembles rage-induced impotent types. The resentment is disturbing. I believe that this comes from a lot of people talk about like guilt too much, but I think part of it is influenced by an understanding that they are among the most privileged people in the entire world, and that privilege is something worthy of hatred and resentment. So they have a psychological incentive to cosplay and LARP as victims, which is why we have people in the middle of Colombia demanding humanitarian aid because they worship victimhood. because victimhood is equated with righteousness in their view of the world, and acknowledgement of their own elite status is psychologically threatening in that sense. And also, I think it's a simple function of young people like to do exciting, rebellious things. It's literally a natural part of our moral development as a species. You can observe this throughout time. It's a well-observed psychological phenomenon. So part of it is literally just age appropriate. But it can come out in a pretty unhelpful way. I don't know. I mean, there's so much deeper that you can dig into that, but that's kind of some surface level observations from myself. Also, as someone who used to be a militant leftist wannabe revolutionary LARPer when I was this age, I can speak from experience. Sergeant gave respect ham for honest about their gods. I'm not sure what this means.
I think he's saying respect Hamas for being honest about their gods.
I quite like actual ham. Ham is my god. I'm being stupid. GJ gave another super chat saying, okay, in general, guesstimating the AR movement has over 3 million subs, members, adherents across the laundry list of platforms on which AR is active. That makes Atheist Republic bigger than 33% of sovereign nations. Well, unfortunately, our largest platform, Facebook, where we had over 2.3 million people, got nuked off the face of the earth. So that hit our numbers in terms of being larger than sovereign nations a bit. It hurt a bit. It left a mark. It left a dent. Yeah. Okay. Which is actually a good reminder that we would still like to try to get our Facebook page back. And I have been struggling to get our Facebook page back. So if you or anyone you know works at Facebook, or maybe one of the companies that they contract to do their moderation, please reach out to me at Susanna at atheistrepublic.com. That is SUSANNA at atheistrepublic.com. We legitimately would very much like people's help in fixing this. It's a constant uphill battle. And it's so annoying that the only way to get anything fixed at Facebook is to literally just know someone on the inside. And they do that on purpose.
All right. Let's clap for the next news. Can we clap?
Oh, God, no. This is the most tragic one.
No. Okay. Well, then next news, I guess. Next news.
Jihadist bloodbath. Over 500 dead in shocking massacre in Burkina Faso. On October 24th, let me rewind. On August 24th, a horrific massacre unfolded near Barsologo, a town in north-central Burkina Faso, resulting in an estimated 500 deaths. Suspected jihadists attacked hundreds of civilians who were digging trenches to protect their village, an action reportedly mandated by the Burkinabe troops. The assault, one of the deadliest since the terrorist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State began operating within the country a decade ago, has left the nation reeling. A survivor recounted the gruesome aftermath. Quote, we went out with carts to collect the bodies of my older brothers. We spent a long time going through the bodies piled up under trees. The tragedy highlights the ongoing security crisis in Burkina Faso, which led to a military coup in 2022. While the ruling junta condemned the violence, they have not provided official casualty figures. The militant group, Jama Nusrat al-Islam wa al-Muslimin, claimed responsibility for the attack, asserting they targeted soldiers and militia members, even though eyewitness accounts suggest that many victims were civilians. So Yeah, D is bringing up an excellent point right away. Over 500. Imagine the world response if this happened in Europe. This barely made the news. So this is one of the worst attacks that has happened in Burkina Faso's history. And and so D, who is our lovely editor, one of the best volunteers on our team, said, so I wanted to include it today because she helps me pick out the news. And I did think that this was really important to highlight. It's shocking that this barely makes the news, that, a lot of people point out the hypocrisy of the global media landscape when it comes to what's going on in Sudan versus what's going on in Gaza. And to provide a little bit of background, Burkina Faso has gone through a series of military coups lately. I think they had 2 in 1 year, like 2 years ago. And basically the security situation is really, really poor. And this has to do with how the security situation in the Sahel in general has been deteriorating for about 10 years now. And basically, this is actually really sad. So the military junta is not able to provide security for the people. And there was this town where the military came into town one day, this is my understanding, and basically forced the population. They're saying, okay, as a security measure, we are going to dig trenches around this town to help, provide a little bit of a barrier. Okay, so the population gets forced into digging these trenches. What's so horrible is that these trenches essentially became their mass graves, because then the jihadists roll up and just start opening fire on people. And reportedly over 500 people were killed. I've seen a number as high as like 600. And the jihadists, of course, say, oh, no, these are not civilians at all. They're all soldiers. Versus, like, I've seen the video footage. These people are not dressed as soldiers. They're dressed as some random people in a town who are being forced to dig trenches in an attempt to have any security.
Yeah. I'm looking at the videos. This is freaking horrific. Like, we can't even show this. This is what the hell? No. This is like a nightmare.
Yeah, no, I don't even want you to scroll down. Like, do not even scroll down.
Oh my God, what the hell? Imagine if this happened in any other country. This would be headline news everywhere right now. 500 civilians were basically, they were trying to, if you look at the videos, there are trenches. So basically they knew that their attack is going to happen. So they were trying to protect their villages. And while they were digging the trenches, then the Islamists showed up and just shoot them in those trenches. And you could see the trenches is filled with bodies of these civilians who are just trying to protect their village. Wait, why did they kill them? Why were the Islamists attacking this village to begin with? Like, what the hell was on?
That isn't even entirely clear to me.
No.
That isn't even entirely clear to me. Like, I don't know if it's just because they think they're on the side of the government or something. Like, it's... but they did claim the attack.
Yeah. This is insane. This is like 500. This is a huge massacre. How come this was nowhere? Honestly, if this was in almost most other countries, this would be all over the fucking news.
And I think this is really important because a lot of people now, my understanding is this is a group linked to Al Qaeda, not which is obviously separate than ISIS, but it makes me think about how people, until a lot of activity that's been happening within the past 10 months, thought that ISIS was a thing of the past. And if you pay attention, you know that ISIS didn't go away. They were very active in Africa with the ISWAP division. But people just weren't paying attention. So they had this delusion that ISIS just completely went away because they were defeated in Mosul. And it's just simply not the case. And I think people have this misconception just because there's literally no attention given to what happens in Africa, particularly the Sahel. Partially because it is a really complicated issue, that whole region and the conflict there, that I think is pretty difficult for people to understand. It's highly multifactorial. But it's still crazy that it gets like no attention.
Can you guys just imagine, like, you have just people with guns running around in an area where 500 people and they're just shooting them? Like, just imagine that 500 people in an open space area, and then with nothing to defend themselves, and just being chased around by jihadists and shooting them until 500 of them dies. Like, can you just imagine that scene? Because that's what I'm looking at. That is, what the hell? This is insane. So I'm trying to read the motivations. So they're trying to destabilize the region to expand their influence and control. That's basically the motivation. So they were like, oh, you can't build trenches against us. We're trying to destabilize this region, and this is resistance. So when they saw that the trenches were being made, they were like, okay, we are going to come and kill all of you before you manage to build those trenches.
Yeah.
That is insane.
It's horrible.
Why is this not all over the fucking... oh my God. Imagine if we said jihad has killed like 500... I don't even need to say France, okay? Seriously, like, obviously if it was in France and UK and Germany, people were like, yeah, of course I would get more attention. But I'm saying even in Egypt, for example, like, if we had jihadists killing 500 people, I'm not even talking about first world Western or North American or Western European or European countries or stuff. I'm talking about other countries as well. If this was in Egypt, this would be headline news right now. If this was in Bangladesh, even this would be headline news right now. 500 people were killed by Islamists in Bangladesh. This would be headline news.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's some countries that are even below, like way below even the position where countries like Egypt or Bangladesh are. If this was in Pakistan, this would be headline news. 500 people killed by Islamists in Pakistan, this would be headline news. Maybe not as big of a news as if it was in France or in the UK, but it would still make it much higher in the news than now. Yeah, okay, I don't know. Okay.
I think it's because people have this misconception that it's just too complicated to understand. And because they find it complicated to understand, they just think that that's how people live there, which is such a horrible... it's such a horrible line of thinking. But I just want to make sure that people understand that this is not the media's fault. The media is reporting this. It's not being consumed. I mean, this is on the media, it's on their website, but people are not clicking on it, so it's not going to make it to the headline news, because people are just not going to... I mean, the reports that we're getting from this comes from people are like, oh, mainstream media is bad. Like, you wouldn't even know that this is happening if it wasn't because of mainstream media. The mainstream media is the only group of people that go and actually tell you that this is happening. You think alternative media has like journalists on the ground over there to be able to tell you that this is happening? This is being reported by mainstream media, but people are not consuming it. Yeah. Okay, so
why am I scrolling down?
Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm sorry.
I told you not to.
Okay, but you have to play the video to get to the bad part. So there was nothing.
Let's go to the super chats. Ali Shahalile gave a super chat. Thank you, my friend. Saying, question to my Persian friend: why not rebrand it to Christian Republic? Because we're not Christian.
Because not only we're not Christian, we're actually anti-Christianity. Why should we rebrand it to Christian? We're not Christian, Ali. We're not Christian. We're actually against Christianity.
As shocking as it might be. Also, I don't like the idea of a Christian republic.
Oh my god, yeah, no.
Okay, Sergeant gave another super chat saying, I said goal, not God. I'm open about their intentions. Okay, can people please type in full sentences?
Yes. I don't know
How
what
am I
you're
supposed
saying
to
either.
know what you're saying? You have enough characters to say Hamas. I know you have enough characters to say Hamas. You don't have to say ham. This is confusing, you guys. I don't even remember what the original super chat was. I'm like, am I off base, or did you literally not use a full spelled out word? Okay, like now I'm. Right. Don't gaslight me, bro. GJ gave a super chat saying legally fighting socials. Ask Luis Rossman. Okay, well I'm gonna have to look this guy up. Okay, and Kenny, we're talking about our last segment, is saying I need a new word for insane after hearing that. Yeah, you're not kidding. GJ gave another super chat saying, in global perspective, I still can't believe how little the whole world did against the Rwanda Hutu Tutsi machete slaughterings of the 1990s. Or the Bosnian genocide, for that matter. It's one of those situations where it's like, we had a pretty damn good idea of what was happening for a long time and just didn't do anything to stop it. It's really shameful. Okay, shall we move to the next story?
I just want to remember how many people died in Rwanda? Wait. In the fight between the Tutsis and all that. Oh, what the hell? 800,000. Jesus Christ. Okay, never mind. Okay. What? Okay. All right. So, is the next one clap worthy?
We can clap because it's interest. Like no one died. There was not a massacre.
Okay, nobody died. Well, we have super chats. Are we not gonna read the super chat?
I just did.
Yeah. No.
Oh wait, we just got a new one. Gasian American got a super chat saying, "This is why I'm here at AR." Well, thank you, Gasian.
Well, thank you. All right, so next news is nobody died, so we can clap. Next news, the worrying rebirth of Bangladesh's Islamist party. In a dramatic political shift, Bangladesh's interim government, led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, has overturned the ban on the controversial Islamist party Jamaat-e-Islami on August 28th. This decision reverses the ban imposed by former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who was ousted last August following massive nationwide protests against her authoritarian rule and controversial quota reforms. The protests, primarily led by university students, were sparked by Hasina's reinstatement of a 30% quota for government jobs for descendants of the 1971 freedom fighters that was part of the Bangladesh Liberation War from Pakistan. Amidst this turmoil, Jamaat-e-Islami's Secretary General Mia Ghulam Parwar welcomed the ban's reversal, stating, quote, "We made demand to present the interim government to revoke it. The government did justice by resisting a tyranny. I thank God Almighty for this." However, the decision has reignited debates about the party's controversial past, particularly its alleged role in war crimes during the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, where an estimated 3 million people died and 200,000 women were raped. Critics argue that allowing Jamaat-e-Islami back into politics could undermine Bangladesh's progress and reconciliation efforts. The party, banned from elections since 2013 due to its opposition to secularism, must now register with the Election Commission to participate in future polls.
This development underscores the complex challenges that Bangladesh faces in balancing democratic freedoms, historical accountability, and concerns about religious extremism as it navigates a new tenuous political landscape under the interim government. So I thought that this was really important to cover because shortly, I remember we were going to cover when the Islamist party got banned in Bangladesh, but then we didn't end up covering that because Sheikh Hasina fled the freaking country like 4 days later. So I was like, I don't think this is relevant anymore. We're not going to cover this. There is a lot to talk about here. And I want to take a very broad approach because there's a lot of unknowns here, right? So, first of all, we should start out by saying that the deaths of over 500 people in this uprising against the Awami League, borderline autocratic control over the Bangladesh state, like, I want there to be full accountability to the fullest extent of the law against those who are responsible in perpetrating the murder of over 500 civilians in these past few months, right? Like that just needs to be said, like, off top. We want there to be justice for everyone that was killed. So this is really complicated. The Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh has had a long and complicated history of its legal status within the nation going back to Bangladesh's independence from East Pakistan. And so there's been times where it was like illegal, and then it was legal again, and then it was illegal again, and then they were kind of allowed to be a party, but they're not allowed to participate in elections, and then they got banned, and then now they're legal again. So there's a storied history. And, well, Armin, let me just start out with seeing if you have any immediate reactions, because I know as an Iranian, watching what's happening in Bangladesh in terms of student protests against authoritarianism ushered in Islamist domination. And I know many Iranians are watching what are happening and are trying to give a warning to the people of Bangladesh to not let the same thing happen to them. So I think you have a unique perspective that I like. So how do you react to this?
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to talk to both groups of people who think the toppling of the government was the correct thing to do or the wrong thing to do. Because a lot of times people think that what I'm saying is regardless of whether or not that is true. Okay. If you think that the removal of the previous government was correct, or if you think it was wrong, this applies to both of you. You have to be concerned about an Islamist takeover of your country, right? And I speak this as a person coming from a country who toppled the Pahlavi dynasty, and then Islamism took over, and in a way that people didn't expect. Because a lot of people like say, no, Armin, this is different. Bangladesh is different. Iran was Islamic. Bangladesh is not as Islamic as Iran was. Well, Iran wasn't actually Islamic. Nobody could have seen, Islamic in the sense that Iran will become and turn into a theocracy. Nobody could see that coming. Nobody, including the mullahs themselves, saw that coming. The mullahs themselves saw that even after the revolution, they thought that other people will take over the government and they will have to go back to preaching and stuff. And they were actually shocked, and they were pleasantly surprised how much power they managed to have. Khomeini himself thought that he did the revolution and other people with suits are going to come and take over the government, and he's going to go to Qom to do his preaching. That's what he thought that was going to happen. But eventually they managed to take over the entire government and run everything Islamically. So these things do happen, and you have to be very concerned. In fact, the conditions in Bangladesh are more if you look at how the Iranian attitude was right a couple of years before the revolution towards the idea of Iran becoming an Islamic theocracy, you would have guessed nobody would have guessed it. Everybody would be think you're crazy to think that that could happen to Iran. But if you look at the conditions that Bangladesh is today, it's actually that fear is more common. Like more people look at the attitudes in people in Bangladesh and they think that it's a justifiable fear. So in fact, it's more likely for Bangladesh for it to turn like that than Iran. Iran had less conditions in its favor for it to become an Islamic regime. So I'm not saying that this is done. Like a lot of people are like, Armin, no, this is not going to happen in Bangladesh. You're acting like it's something that's going to happen for sure. I'm not saying whether it will happen or not. I'm saying that the fears are justified. Nobody could predict the future, but the concern is justified. And whatever side you are on regarding the previous regime, if you are secular minded in Bangladesh, you have to now put those differences aside and work together to stop from an Islamic government to take over, right? And also one thing else I want to mention, I don't know why they removed this ban. Why did they remove this ban? The ban, this is why here on this channel we promote liberalism instead of absolute democracy. Liberalism puts a limit on democracy. Not everything should be decided by the majority. Absolute democracy is the tyranny of the majority. Liberalism means that there are certain principles that the majority does not get to change. When it comes to human rights, when it comes to secularism, when it comes to women's rights, with regards to a lot of other things that Islam is against, this is why the solution is not more democracy. The solution is more liberalism, because there are certain things that we know for a fact that works, that the majority of the people should not be able to change. And this is why, especially in Islamic countries, it's important for the narrative to switch from saying, oh, democracy, we want democracy. The narrative needs to change from democracy to we want liberalism, because liberalism has the correct amount of democracy in it, but it also has the correct amount of limitation on majority rule in it, so that Islamism could not take over. The ban on an Islamic party should be there, because you have to maintain secularism in your country. So even if the majority want an Islamic party within your government, you have to say like, no, this is our principle is secularism. The ban on Islamic parties should remain. Why? And before people might come and tell me that, Armin, you're being a hypocrite because you say we shouldn't ban Islam, but then now you're saying that we should ban Islam. Okay, it's not actually. I'm not. This is not a hypocritical position, because you should ban Islam from politics. You should not ban Islam when it comes to civil society being able to express itself. That's freedom of speech. But also, that's the principle of freedom of expression, means that the expression of Islam should be allowed. But also the principle of secularism means that Islam should not be able to be allowed to do in your politics, in the politics of your country. There should be a limit there. Anyways, so these are not contradictory. If you think these are contradictory, it's because you don't understand what I'm saying. But yeah, go on.
Well, okay. Let's take a case in point from history. Okay, so in 2013, there was a court case that banned Jamaat-e-Islami from contesting in elections. What was the basis of this case? This was a case that was put forward by a group of petitioners. Okay, not like the Awami League government. And this group of petitioners argued three main things. And I think the two first main points against this group are the strongest. One, the party's registration was unconstitutional. The Constitution obliges citizens to refrain from communal politics and to uphold the country's independence and sovereignty. And two, Jamaat violated the representation of the people order, which is like a thing in law. That order, enacted by the interim government at the time in 2008, said that all political parties needed women among their leadership. They refused to do this. So essentially, the argument was that if your party platform is unconstitutional, you should not be allowed to participate in our elections. That seems pretty logical to me. And this is the constant paradox of tolerating intolerance, right?
So why did they
And
remove the ban? The ban made sense.
well, there was a different there was like the ban. They were not allowed to contest elections, but they were allowed. This is my understanding. It's very complicated, and like I said, there's been so many changes in its legal status over the years. Like, please correct me if I'm wrong. In 2013, they were banned from contesting elections. I still think that they were allowed to continue like existing, and then in the past month, with all the uprising in Bangladesh, it got full blown banned by the government of the Awami League in general. Okay. And then, so that was what was overturned. And I believe that now they are allowed to re-register to contest elections now. And I believe, so, again, people are free to correct me because I'm still learning a lot about this and I'm very open to that. But I believe some of the incentive to do this is to show that Bangladesh is no longer silencing opposition, because that was the environment under Sheikh Hasina. And there are some things like silencing opposition was a huge, what's the word I'm looking for? It was systematic. And many of the ways in which they silenced the opposition from Jamaat-e-Islami was, many people have criticized it as legally tenuous. So, for example, in the past 10 years, maybe a little over 10 years, I can't quite remember. No, I think it was 2013. A lot. So Jamaat-e-Islami has been alleged to have participated in the war crimes, horrific war crimes and atrocities that were committed against the Bengali people in support of the East Pakistan army that was, freaking brutalizing this nation, right? They supported the people brutalizing the nation. And there are many ways of doing this, paramilitaries among student groups. And there was a series of trials in which the leaders of Jamaat-e-Islami were prosecuted, imprisoned, or executed because of their role in these war crimes. Now, I obviously think that people being held accountable for what they did in the liberation war is extremely necessary, because there is almost like no acknowledgement in the world about what happened. Like, I believe that there was a genocide against Hindus during this time, deliberate. And just like no one cares, apparently, just no one cares. So I would like to see some justice. My understanding is that many people have criticized the actual trials that happened with these people who are alleged to have done these things was legally sketchy. There's been criticism of the legal process. So it's one of those examples where the leaders of this party should 100% be held accountable. But were they held accountable in the right way? Many were executed. This then in turn led to communal violence. And basically, the big issue is nowadays is Jamaat holding it? Is there any reconciliation? They basically still deny to this day that they did anything in the early 70s. Complete denial, non-acknowledgement.
I mean, we don't. I mean, so these are bans. These are historic things, but so maybe the ban before by Hasina, you could say it was correct or incorrect. It was politically motivated. It was based on historical events. So even if that makes no sense, it still makes sense for other reasons to have bans on this group. I mean, they're an Islamic
100%.
Yeah. I mean, so maybe her ban, the reason why we had the ban before, okay, I don't care. This group should still be banned. This group should still be banned from entering politics. I mean, silencing opposition, you're not silencing them if they get to speak as individual citizens, right? You can still speak, but you do not meet the requirements to be part of the government. Every country should have certain limitations on who gets to be part of government. That is not against freedom of speech, because you as individuals still can express your opinions. It's against freedom of speech if you are being targeted or arrested for saying something. with the sake of not silencing your opposition. For example, imagine the United States allowed Nazis to form a party for the sake of free speech. No, Nazis in the United States get to express themselves as Nazis. They could. That's what freedom of speech means. You cannot say like, okay, let's go all the way and allow them to have a Nazi party in the United States. No,
like
that
a
is not free
legitimate
speech.
political party that can run in elections when they're literally anti-democratic. Like, no.
That is not free speech. That is insanity. Free speech that means only that I get to express myself, and that's it. You do not owe more than that. The government is not owed. It does not need to do more than that. Freedom of speech does not mean the right to form a political party. Also, is that their logo that you have on the cover of the Jamaat Islami?
Yeah.
So you know how people always say that the Allah looks like a ball sack, the way you write Allah? You know that, right? You're familiar with that? Or is this new? I just wanted to mention that... I wasn't
expecting you to put it that way, right?
No, it does look like a ball sack. And also the hair at the very end looks like, I don't know, the penis after ejaculation. So it looks like a full-on ball sack next to the penis after you ejaculate. But the interesting thing is that in the logo that they have, because they added those green, scales, it actually looks more like a ball sack because they added the wrinkles as well. I just want to say that as much as the Allah name looks like a ball sack, usually Jamaat Islami have added some parts to it that makes it even more like a ball sack. Do you guys not agree?
No, people in the live chat are upset that you brought that to their attention.
No.
I don't think people are happy to have this brought into their mind.
No, it's important to recognize that. It's important to mention this is a good form of blasphemy. Okay, tell Muslims around the world that their Allah looks like a ball sack. Okay, just make sure you're being extremely offensive.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. See, a Pakistani atheist agrees with me. Fantastic. That's all I needed.
So one thing that I was trying to decipher when I was reading a lot about this in preparation for the news today is like, okay, well, we have these concerns. A lot of people have these concerns. Particularly the Hindu population in Bangladesh has major concerns. I have heard news of a blasphemy lynching that happened in the country this past week. I'm still looking for more information about it. I think we might cover that potential lynching. I'm just waiting for more information to come out. So people definitely are concerned. But historically, Jamaat-e-Islami has not actually performed very well in elections. And my understanding is that they have very well organized social networks. And so they're able to bring a lot of people out on the street. And that causes a big spectacle. But they still actually perform very poorly in elections. So I'm be very curious to see how this evolves going forward, because talking about the social networks, it reminded me a lot of what Armin talks about in terms of the networks of the mullahs in Iran before the revolution. And so in terms of analysis, like people, I've just seen analysts all over the place in terms of whether they think they actually will have mass support, whether they won't. Some people are like, our liberal values in Bangladesh are way too strong for this, And then other people are like, I think that they are very, very well organized. They just haven't had the potential yet. Other people say that the party's history is too toxic for most Bengalis to want to support it. So it's all over the place. And I will continue to be paying attention to this, especially instances of violence against minorities, because I think that now is a very important time to pay attention to this. So let's go to the super chats. A gave a super chat saying, I personally prefer to call them ham ass. Okay, if you say that, I at least know what you mean. But when you just say ham, I'm going to think you're literally talking about a ham hock, okay? Like, please help me out here. People need to remember that to us, you're just text on a screen. We don't know if you're being sarcastic. We don't know if you're making a joke where you're pretending to be stupid, and that is the joke, because we see so much nonsense. We're going to take you seriously and think that you're being stupid. We've made this mistake before, and it will happen again. And I did want to highlight several comments from Shuvo, because Shuvo comes from a Bengali Hindu family, and Shuvo is actually a really good friend of mine. And I'm glad that he's here to give some commentary, saying becoming an Islamic country is not considered a threat by most Bangladeshis. People really need to understand that. Shuvo also said the majority of Iranians do not want Islam. That does not apply for Bangladeshis.
So here's that. So what I'm saying, I acknowledge that becoming is not considered a threat. It's not considered a threat because many people want Islam in Bangladesh. So that threat should be taken seriously in Bangladesh. That this is actually, there might not be that much of a resistance to it if Bangladesh becomes Islamic. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Also saying Bangladeshis are not secular. People need to understand this. Bangladesh's principle is not secularism. It was thrown in the constitution to make it look cute. Bangladeshis do not consider Islamic laws to be threatening. Yeah. Well, in the majority is what you're saying, because I know there's certainly a lot of people that do. And
including himself.
Yeah. Jamaat has worked under the table in the last few years. They are more powerful than the BNP, which is the other major opposition party, or what was the opposition party to the Awami League. And the BNP and Jamaat-e-Islami have worked in coalitions before in the past. They're more powerful than the BNP. They will rise. I know, which is a big part of why I want to pay attention to this, because I was watching this really great documentary about Islamism in Bangladesh, created by DW. I think it was just called like Zero Tolerance: The Dawn of Islamism in Bangladesh. It was a really good piece. It was done 6 years ago. And in the end of this documentary, there are these young guys who are starting college, and they're just these musicians, and they talk about how they have freedom, but they want more freedom, and they're like have this desire for a new and better country. And I just think about all those students who legitimately do want a newer, better country, and it would be such a tragedy to have the people who were injured or lost their lives because of how they genuinely want more freedom just completely taken advantage of because of this. Yeah, like there needs to be a space for free thinking in Bangladesh. Okay, so let's go through some super chats. Hu Jintao gave a super chat saying, once again, Hindus will suffer in their ancestral homeland. Again, just like the Zoroastrians in their homeland. Do you join viewers to talk to? If you're asking to come onto the live stream right now, the answer is no. But thank you for the super chat. GJ gave a super chat saying, how was Khomeini talked into being Iran's supreme leader against his ideas? PS off topic, Iran's revolution used the new media, aka the Phillips cassette tape. Armin, how about you answer that first question?
Yeah, so Khomeini was not talked into being the supreme leader against his own ideas. Before he believed in the mullahs becoming the leaders. It was in his book Velayat Faqih, before the revolution even started, that was his idea. The reason why I said that he did not expect to become the leader, is because he didn't think he would be capable of doing that. He thought that at the beginning of the revolution in 1979, there were too many other forces, specifically the Marxists, that were competing for power with the mullahs, and it didn't seem like the mullah, like Khomeini, didn't expect him to be able to gain all the power after the revolution. But his idea for the ideal solution was, from the very beginning, for the mullahs to gain all the power, and eventually, so nobody had to talk them into it. It's just that things ended up working out for him. They managed to effectively eliminate all the Marxists and basically gain all the power.
Yeah. Another quick comment from Shuva, which I think was good, saying there's a small movement to change the national anthem of Bangladesh. The anthem was written by a Hindu poet. Wink, wink. That's an indication of where things are heading. And you can also see this in the destruction of statues in Bangladesh, because Sheikh Hasina's father was the founding father of Bangladesh. His statues and pictures are being destroyed because of his association to her. And there's also because these brain dead Islamists are just anti-statue. There's been movements to remove statues of the Lady of Justice in front of courthouse in Bangladesh because the statue is idolatry. Any statue, it's that kind of stuff just drives me crazy. Like, any statue is idolatry. Okay, sure. So another super chat from Hu Jintao saying, even before these protests, all supported by U.S. NGOs in Bangladesh, U.S. embassy officials were meeting opposition parties in Bangladesh for months. The U.S. wants St. Martin's Islands to be in Indian Ocean, but Hasina was too close to India and China. U.S. interferes without considering consequences. And that's another aspect of this, in that there are a lot of much, much, much larger geopolitical influences at play that I'm not going to pretend to be like an expert in, but it's something that I'm interested in learning more about. Hu Jintao also said the U.S. installed Muhammad Yunus, a major Clinton Foundation donor. Leftists trust Islamists to gain power, but then Islamists kill leftists. It has been observed many times. And GJ is asking, did Bangladesh not begin as East Pakistan? No. So what we call today Pakistan was East Pakistan, and Bangladesh was West Pakistan. And they were geographically and culturally divided, and West Pakistan wanted liberation and respect for their Bengali language and identity. And
actually, that's not true. Bangladesh was East Pakistan before.
No.
Used to be called, yeah. Bangladesh used to be called
Am I
East
losing my
Pakistan
mind? Did I do a whoopsie?
No, Bangladesh. Yeah, you did a whoopsie.
Oh my
It's
God,
East
I'm sorry. I
Pakistan.
did a whoopsie.
Yes.
I did a whoopsie. My bad.
From
apologies.
1947 to 1979, Bangladesh used to be called the East Pakistan. So it's
I did a whoopsie. I apologize, and I'm going to blame it on not feeling well today.
That's okay.
Thank you for pointing that out.
The current Pakistan used to be called West Pakistan. And now it's just Pakistan.
Yeah. Yep. That's my bad. Aiden gave a super chat saying, now every time I walk into a mosque for Eid, we got money from Bosnia. How cool. To keep my apostasy secret, I will start laughing aloud. Thanks a lot, Armin. John is also saying, Armin, are you 5 years old?
Hold on. Okay, so first of all, I'm glad that more people are seeing it. Aiden is confirming that it does actually, Allah does actually look like balls, right? And also, balls like John. This is actually an important source of blasphemy for the Iranian people. So you are basically making fun of Iranian culture right now. Iranian culture is now blasphemy against Islam, and this is one of them. So seeing the resemblance between what Allah looks at, and again, Iranian people do need this to make fun of religious symbols because of the level of oppression and silencing. So going out all the way extreme to the other side of making fun of religious symbols is actually very important part of responding to all the silencing that they have been experiencing for the past 40 years. I do have a picture that shows how much Allah does look like ball sacks. Can I show that, Susanna? You can see what it looks like. Is that,
I can see it below. I don't want to.
You don't want to show that? Okay.
No.
Okay. Can you say I can't unsee that? Well,
for those who don't know,
You're
on the
welcome.
backstage, I've been seeing in my bottom third these little hairy balls on my screen for the past 10 minutes. I'm not super into it. And
okay.
we don't need to put everyone else through this, okay? Instead of keeping it a little thing in my bottom third, who wants to just make my whole screen? Okay, cool. It's still sitting there. Put that away.
I put it away.
Okay, now my eyeballs are safe.
Okay.
Oh my God.
There's another thing that they say about Allah that I'm not even going to say the way Allah the written because when they here's the thing, when they make fun of Muhammad or Ali or Hussein, these are people. So when they make cartoons about them, there's something to work with, right? But because Allah doesn't actually have there's no figure, there's no entity that you could point to as Allah, right? It's harder for people to use cartoons or drawings against an entity that doesn't even have a body. So that's why people go after Allah, the written word of Allah, and try to make fun of that, because there's no, like, when it comes to drawings and art, right? And given that how much this offended a whole bunch of you in the chat, I'm not even going to say the main one, because that is actually way worse than like the way that people make fun of the written word of Allah. This actually 10 times worse than what I just said. And I'm just going to leave that for Susanna. I'm going to say that. I don't know. She seems pretty upset. Maybe I won't even tell Susanna. She can't tell.
Like, do we have to, like, at least give me like a break, you know? Like,
I'm not going to. Okay, I won't even tell you that.
A second episode, please.
Okay.
Please, senor. Gajan gave a super chat saying, the Lady of Justice is the Roman goddess Justitia, Liberty is the Roman goddess Libertas. Hu Jintao was the last president to have term limits. Okay, here's the thing. Just because these figures that are essentially allegories for values that we aspire to came or has an origin with the Greek or Roman pagan goddess doesn't mean that people are literally praising that thing like it's an idol. That's so stupid. Someone say you failed geography, you're finished, you charlatan. I think you're making fun of Muhammad Hijab. You finished. Yeah. You're finished.
Well, thank you for your super chat. Muhammad Hijab.
What the hell? GJ is saying Armin, like Netherlands cyclists crossing red light on World War II Nazis. I'm sorry, GJ. I have no idea what you mean.
Is this referring to... No, that's French. Never mind.
I don't know. Okay, so let's go to our last news segment. People are going to be very interested in this one.
Okay. Clappable?
They're going to be very interested in this one. Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Oh, I see you put a turban on the BBC logo. That's funny. All right.
Ayatollah
Okay, okay.
BBC.
Ayatollah BBC. Is that okay on purpose? Okay,
BBC
so
Jen.
hold on. Next news.
Next news, BBC scandal. Highly respected imam praised Hamas's attack on Israel. The BBC has sparked controversy by introducing Imam Haithan al-Haddad as a highly respected religious figure during an August 2024 interview on BBC Radio London. Well, al-Haddad discussed far-right violence in the UK, stating, quote, when certain media outlets and politicians target Muslims, making the Muslim community a scapegoat, it fuels resentments. Critics highlighted his history of inflammatory remarks. These include supporting the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel, where he wrote, "Oh Allah, support the people of truth in Gaza, Al-Quds, and Palestine. They have managed to cause confusion to the enemy's calculations with a new tactic," end quote. Al-Haddad's controversial past also includes claiming that Islamically approved female circumcision, aka female genital mutilation, is better for the husband, and described homosexuality as a criminal act. Critics argue that by presenting al-Haddad without context, the BBC violated its impartiality guidelines. The National Secular Society's Alejandro Sanchez emphasized it is for the BBC to decide whether to platform extremists like al-Haddad, but impartiality demands fundamentalist views are properly acknowledged. This incident underscores the challenges media faces in balancing diverse perspectives with responsible reporting, especially when dealing with figures who have expressed extremist views. So here's the thing. This is kind of goes into a larger discussion about why I have an issue, or how, kind of a common model in the UK and in other countries is to try to manage extremism in communities by engaging with community leaders. And the problem is that these community leaders are often like self-appointed and they have two faces. And so when they're speaking to the broader society, they'll make it seem like they're the most moderate, peace-loving person in the world. And then when they're saying in their sermons is extremely toxic, terroristic, extreme, anti-constitutional. But then there are government funds and platforms that give them legitimacy by claiming them as highly respected. Oh, they're so highly respected within the community, blah, blah, blah. But really they're an extremist and they have tons of antisocial views and behaviors. And this is one of those dudes. So let's just pull up two quick videos from this guy.
Yes. So, and also let's try to get through it quick because we have to make sure that the show is under 3 hours. So this is in English, right? So we don't have to.
But the Sunnah way of doing it, the proper way of doing it, it is a Sunnah. Ibn Hazm said, أجمع كل من نحفظ عنه من أهل العلم أنه Sunnah. It is the consensus of all the scholars that female circumcision is Sunnah. طيب.
Female circumcision is Sunnah, meaning that it's the way of the Prophet. It means that it's Islamic. He's saying all the scholars agree, Islamic scholars agree with that.
Also, some other scholars narrated this ijma' as well, that it is Sunnah. I haven't come across myself, when I studied this mas'ala, I haven't come across any scholar who said it clearly, scholar from the past, his opinion is not an odd opinion, right? Who said that it is not Sunnah. All of them, they said it is Sunnah. In fact, some scholars, like some Hanabila, and I think some Shafi'is as well, they said that it is wajib.
So he's referring to the different Islamic schools of thought. We have 4 Islamic schools of thought. So some of them are saying that it's wajib, means it's mandatory.
And I think some Shafi'is as well, they said that it is wajib. Yeah? For
basically mutilating little girls, basically removing parts of their genitals. He's saying it's wajib, meaning it's necessary.
Shaykhana Ibn Baz, he used to say that it is not. for both men and women. Yeah.
All right, so some Islamic scholars say that it's recommended, it's good to do, but it's not necessary, and some scholars say that it is necessary.
Because of what? Because of the well-known hadith. طيب. حديث شداد بن أوس and reported in a number of narrations. الختان مكرمة للرجال.
So he's mentioning the hadith that justifies it.
سنة للنساء. Sorry. الختان سنة للرجال مكرمة للنساء. الختان سنة for men. مكرمة يعني is like a virtue or honor for women.
Okay, so it's a virtue. So cutting a woman, lady, genitals, it says it's a virtue. So now the disagreements between different schools of thought on basically cutting children's genitals, female genitals, is not whether it's right or wrong. All of them agree that it's a good thing to do. Some of them think it's necessary. Some of them think it's good but not necessary. So here's another video. This one, let's play this one. This one, okay, what is this one about?
So the intellectual victory, the moral victory. People have seen the Palestinian resistance and how they treat the prisoners. They have seen also.
Okay, so this is just praising Hamas, basically saying that Hamas people are basically treating their prisoners well.
Oh man,
So
you
he
didn't
endorses
bring
Hamas
the
as
other
well.
one where he talks about how he calls London Londonistan, and he basically is saying something along the lines of, "I don't miss Afghanistan anymore."
Where is
because
that?
Afghanistan is in London. Oh shoot!
It's not in here.
Oh, okay.
So he's
Man, I have a
acknowledging
second
that.
one.
It's okay. No, we don't have time for that, but that's interesting that he actually says he doesn't miss Afghanistan because he's saying London has changed so much that is basically like Afghanistan now. Is that his claim?
Wait, here it is. Here's a quote. It was not there 20 years ago by the grace of Allah. Look at, mashallah, our brothers and sisters. If you go outside, you think you are in a second Afghanistan, but you are in Londonistan. So it is really amazing, overwhelming. So he said that in a positive sense. Mashallah, it looks like a second Afghanistan. I was like, oh my God, dude. You can't make this up. This is why I keep telling people to go watch what people say when they're talking amongst each other, not when they're talking to the BBC, whatever. Like, they make their actual beliefs so obvious. And this guy supports like execution for apostasy. He has gone to meet with Taliban ministers. Like, he literally is going to go meet with the Taliban. But the BBC presents him as a highly respected imam. And this is, again, why I find this kind of construct that we've attempted to create, where we have these community leaders that are going to be our liaison into these communities that we're worried about being radicalized, so problematic. It's so problematic. It's not a good system. It gives them undue power. It gives them all this authority. And he's proud of that. And he's proud of that.
All right, guys, we need to end the stream within the next minute or two, or else our editor is going to be upset with us that we went over 3 hours, because she needs it to be under 3 hours for it to fit in her software. So we're going to end the stream right now. Just a reminder to like the stream. It's really important. We wouldn't be asking for it if it didn't make a difference. It makes a huge difference. And you could make even more of a difference if you leave a comment after the show is over. You can share this video. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you are subscribed, check if you have hit the bell notification. Okay, hit the bell notification, and also select all once you do that, right? And go tell your friends and enemies and strangers and everyone else to come search for Atheist Republic on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Let's get this channel growing. Let's get us to 100K. Get us to 100K. We're going to make a lot more difference if we are a 100K channel. So get us there. Anyways, thank you, Susie. Thank you, Dee. And thank you to the rest of the team that we cannot mention the name for setting the stream up. You guys are amazing, and we appreciate you guys. Thank you. Mwah. Bye. Stay liberal.